I take a deep breath before pushing through the heavy glass doors of Blackwood Psychiatric Hospital. The air conditioning hits me like a slap, a welcome relief from the oppressive July heat of rural Massachusetts. The lobby is surprisingly ordinary. Beige walls, generic landscape paintings, a bored receptionist tapping away at her computer. "Daniel Parker," I announce, setting my backpack down. "I'm the new psychiatric nurse, starting today." The receptionist, Gladys, according to her name tag, looks up at me with the weariness of someone who's seen too many fresh-faced newcomers. "Another one," she mutters, not quite under her breath. "That makes 3 this month." "Is that unusual?" I ask, signing the form she slides toward me. "Depends on your definition of unusual," she replies cryptically, handing me an ID badge. "Dr. Winters is waiting for you in the staff room, down the hall, second left." As I walk away, I hear her murmur, "Hope you last longer than the others." Not exactly the warm welcome I'd hoped for, but after what happened at Boston Memorial, I'm in no position to be picky. A wrongful death lawsuit tends to follow you, even when you're eventually cleared. No one wants the nurse who was present when a patient died mysteriously, regardless of what the investigation concluded. The staff room is small but clean, with a coffee machine that looks like it's seen better decades. A tall, angular woman with prematurely silver hair stands when I enter. "Mr. Parker, welcome to Blackwood." Dr. Winters doesn't offer her hand, instead gesturing to a chair. "I trust your relocation was smooth?" "As smooth as starting over can be," I reply, sitting across from her. Her office is meticulously organized, not a paper out of place. "Your references are impressive," she says, though her tone suggests otherwise. 7 years at Boston Memorial. 8, I correct automatically. 7 according to your file. Your employment was terminated last February. I feel my face flush. The investigation cleared me of any wrongdoing. So I read. She closes my file with a snap. "Blackwood is different from what you're accustomed to, Mr. Parker. We deal with cases most institutions consider hopeless. Treatment-resistant psychosis, extreme dissociative disorders, violent schizophrenia. Our patients have been rejected by traditional psychiatric care. I've worked with difficult cases before," I say, trying to sound confident. "Not like ours." Dr. Winters' smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Tell me, how familiar are you with experimental psychiatric treatments?" "I've assisted with ECT, transcranial magnetic stimulation, ketamine therapy." "I'm referring to off-book treatments, Mr. Parker." I hesitate. "I'm not sure I understand." "You will." She hands me a thin red folder. "These are the special guidelines for Ward C, your assigned section. 23 patients, all high risk. You'll be working alongside Nurse Keller, who will orient you." I open the folder, finding a typed list of what appear to be rules or protocols. My eyes catch random entries. "Never engage with patients who speak in rhyme. All patients must receive their medication before sundown, never after. If a patient claims to recognize you from before, report it immediately." Dr. Winters must notice my confusion. Our patients have specific triggers and patterns. These guidelines are born from years of, let's call it, trial and error. Some of these seem odd, I venture. Like this one. "Never bring flowers onto the ward, especially white roses." That's oddly specific. Patient 17 has a violent reaction to white roses. His mother's funeral. Well, the details aren't important. Just follow the guidelines, Mr. Parker. Before I can ask more questions, the door opens and a stocky man with a buzz cut enters. Despite the room's cool temperature, sweat beads his forehead. "Keller, this is Daniel Parker, our new nurse," Dr. Winters says. Keller gives me a once-over, his expression unreadable. "Another city boy. Great. His Boston accent is thick. Come on, I'll show you around before evening meds." As I rise to follow him, Dr. Winters adds, "One last thing, Mr. Parker. These guidelines aren't suggestions. They're for your safety and the safety of our staff and patients. Breaking them has consequences." "I understand," I assure her. I hope you do. She turns back to her computer. Because the last nurse who disregarded them is still in room 12. As a patient, Keller leads me through a series of security doors, each requiring his keycard and a fingerprint scan. The modern lobby gives way to an older section of the hospital, with cracked linoleum floors and flickering fluorescent lights. Place was built in the 1920s, Keller explains, noticing my gaze. Renovated in patches over the years. Ward C is in the original wing. How long have you worked here? I ask, trying to keep pace with his brisk walk. 7 years in Ward C. Before that, 2 years in the relatively normal Wards A and B. He glances back at me. You read those guidelines yet? Skimmed them. Some seem unusual. Keller barks out a laugh. That's one word for it. Look, I don't know what they told you during recruitment, but Blackwood isn't your typical psychiatric facility. The patients here, they're not just sick, they're... He trails off, searching for words. They're what? Different, he finally says. You'll see. Just stick to the guidelines and you'll be fine. Probably. That reassuring probably hangs between us as we approach a heavy steel door marked Ward C. Keller swipes his card, presses his thumb to a scanner, and punches in a code. You'll get your own access tomorrow, he says as the door unlocks with a heavy clunk. For today, you don't go anywhere without me. Understand? I nod, suddenly aware of a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. As the door swings open, a wall of sound hits me. A cacophony of moans, shouts, and what sounds like someone repeatedly slamming their head against a wall. The smell is next, antiseptic layered over sweat, urine, and something metallic that I recognize immediately as blood. Welcome to Ward C, Keller says grimly. Or as we call it, the Whispering Ward. You'll find out why soon enough. The corridor stretches before us, lined with heavy doors, each with a small reinforced glass window. Some have names taped beneath small number placards. Others are identified only by numbers. We start rounds in 10 minutes, Keller informs me. But first, meds. He leads me to a secure room filled with locked cabinets. You're not authorized to dispense anything yet, so just observe today. As he begins preparing medications, I flip through the guidelines again, my unease growing with each strange rule I read. If a patient tells you they're not real, agree with them. Room 19 must always be entered backwards, never facing forward. If you hear humming from an empty room, do not investigate alone. These can't all be necessary, I murmur. Keller pauses, measuring out pills into a small cup. Every single one of those guidelines exists because something bad happened when someone didn't follow them. He dumps the pills into labeled compartments on a medication cart. You think they're weird? Try dealing with patient 8, who will literally try to eat his own tongue if you speak to him using words with the letter T. That's not in here, I say, flipping through the pages. New development. Happened last week. Keller continues sorting medications. Guidelines get updated all the time. When you start seeing the patterns yourself, you'll add to them. What do you mean by patterns? He stops, fixing me with a stare. You'll see. Now let's start rounds. The first few patients are relatively standard cases. A catatonic elderly woman, a middle-aged man with severe OCD who counts his steps exactly 17 times before allowing us to administer his medication. A young woman who speaks exclusively in questions. It's at room 8 that I get my first real taste of Blackwood's peculiarity. Keller demonstrates how to speak to the patient without using any words containing the letter T. Hello, Chris. I have your evening medicine. Keller's speech is careful, each word chosen with precision. The patient, a gaunt man with patchy hair, accepts the medication without incident. As we leave, I can't help but ask, how did you manage to avoid T so easily? Practice, Keller shrugs. Each one has their quirks, their rules. We follow them, or people suffer. We continue down the hall, and I notice that some rooms are skipped. What about rooms 12 and 13, I ask. 12 is isolation. special cases only, and we don't use room 13. Keller's tone makes it clear the subject is closed. At room 17, Keller stops me before entering. "This is Vincent. Remember what Dr. Winters said about white roses? He's sensitive to colors in general, but especially white. Don't wear white around him. Don't mention snow, clouds, milk, anything white. Why? Just don't." Keller's expression darkens. Last year, an orderly wore white sneakers into his room. Vincent gouged out his own eyes with a plastic spoon because he said they showed him the whiteness inside people. "Took 3 of us to restrain him," the screams. He shudders at the memory. Blood everywhere, so much blood. I swallow hard, the reality of this place finally sinking in. As we finish rounds, Keller leads me to a small staff area. Last thing for today, the night report. We document everything, and I mean everything. Any deviation from usual behavior, any new patterns, any broken rules. I nod, exhausted and overwhelmed. "Is it always this intense?" "This was a good day," Keller says with a humorless laugh. "No one tried to kill themselves or us." As I'm about to respond, a scream echoes down the corridor. Raw and primal. "Spoke too soon," Keller mutters, jumping to his feet. "That's room 23. We rush down the hallway, Keller shouting for backup on his radio. The screaming continues, punctuated now by heavy thuds. When we reach room 23, I peer through the window and freeze. A young woman is slamming her head against the wall with such force that the concrete is smeared with blood. But that's not what stops me cold. It's what she's screaming. "Daniel Parker is here. The dead man is here. He's come back to finish what he started." Keller looks at me, his eyes narrowing. "You know her?" "I've never seen her before in my life," I whisper, watching in horror as the woman continues to scream my name. "Well, she sure as hell knows you," Keller says grimly. "Or thinks she does." As backup arrives and they prepare to enter the room, I step back, my mind racing. How could she possibly know my name? I'd never set foot in Blackwood before today. Unless... I glance down at the guidelines folder in my trembling hand, suddenly remembering one rule I'd glossed over. If a patient knows your name before being told, do not return to the ward. Report to Dr. Winters immediately. But it's too late for that now. As the staff rush into room 23, the woman locks eyes with me through the window and smiles through the blood streaming down her face. "Welcome home, Daniel," she mouths. "We've been waiting for you." I don't sleep that night. How could I? The woman's words echo in my head. "Welcome home, Daniel. We've been waiting for you." My tiny staff apartment feels claustrophobic, despite being reasonably comfortable. Blackwood provides on-site housing for staff. For convenience, Dr. Winters had explained, though the hospital's remote location makes it more of a necessity. The nearest town is 20 miles away, and few want to make that commute on the winding forest roads, especially in winter. I spend hours poring over patient 23's file, which Keller reluctantly let me access after the incident. Her name is Rachel Weaver, admitted 3 years ago after being found wandering naked along the highway, covered in someone else's blood, diagnosed with severe schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder. No prior connection to me or Boston Memorial. No possible way she could know me. Yet she screamed my name. Around 4 a.m., I give up on sleep and decide to shower. As the water runs over me, I replay everything from my first day, trying to make sense of it all. The bizarre rules. Keller's cryptic comments. Dr. Winters' warning about the former nurse now residing in room 12. A thought strikes me. What if this is some elaborate hazing ritual? Push the new guy's buttons, see if he cracks under pressure. It wouldn't be the first time healthcare professionals use dark humor to cope with a difficult workplace. By the time my 6 a.m. alarm sounds, I've almost convinced myself that's the case. I dress quickly in fresh scrubs and head to the cafeteria for coffee before my shift. The cafeteria is nearly empty, save for a janitor mopping the floor and an elderly man in a lab coat meticulously cutting his pancakes into perfect 1-inch squares. "You must be the new nurse," the man says without looking up. Ward C, I presume? Yes, I reply, pouring coffee into a styrofoam cup. Daniel Parker. Dr. Friedman. Neurology. He gestures to the chair across from him. Join me? I hesitate, then sit down. Dr. Friedman appears to be in his 70s, with thick glasses and liver-spotted hands that move with surprising precision. First day go well? He asks, examining each bite of pancake before eating it. Interesting would be the word I'd use. I reply cautiously. I imagine you have questions about our little ecosystem here. Several dozen, actually? Dr. Friedman smiles thinly. Ward C has always been special. Been here 30 years, and it still surprises me sometimes. The guidelines seem extreme, I venture. Necessary, though. Each one written in blood, so to speak. He dabs his mouth with a napkin. I understand you had an incident with patient 23? News travels fast. She knew my name. Somehow. Curious. Dr. Friedman doesn't seem particularly surprised. Rachel has. Sensitivities. Perceptions most don't. Meaning? Meaning Ward C doesn't just house the mentally ill, Mr. Parker. It houses those with unique neurological conditions that manifest in psychiatric symptoms, rare brain chemistry, anomalous neural pathways. He leans forward slightly. Tell me, do you believe in precognition? I blink at the non sequitur. Not particularly. Neither did I, until I met patient 5. He predicted 3 major earthquakes, down to the minute, drew the exact seismograph readings a week before they occurred. Friedman checks his watch. You should head to your shift. Keller doesn't appreciate tardiness. As I stand to leave, he adds, Oh, and Mr. Parker, avoid room 19 today if possible. The moon phase is wrong. Before I can ask what the hell that means, he returns to his pancakes, effectively dismissing me. The ward is quieter when I arrive, the night shift having just administered the morning sedatives to the more agitated patients. Keller waits by the nurse's station, looking marginally less grumpy than yesterday. You made it back, he remarks, almost sounding impressed. Half expected you to run for the hills after yesterday. Considered it, I admit. But I've got nowhere else to go. None of us do, Keller says cryptically. Today you start handling meds. I'll supervise. As we prepare the morning medications, I notice a red post-it note on the medication room bulletin board. Avoid white, numbers, and birds with patient 11 today. Next to it, someone has scrawled, Patient 7 speaking backwards again. Do not correct him. Updates to the guidelines? I ask, nodding toward the notes. Daily adjustments, Keller confirms. Patient's triggers change. We adapt. The morning rounds proceed smoothly until we reach room 11. The patient, a middle-aged woman with her hair pulled into a tight bun, sits rigidly on the edge of her bed. Good morning, Miss Alvarez, Keller says cheerfully. Time for your morning medication. Her eyes flick from Keller to me, narrowing slightly. Who is this? She asks. Her voice surprisingly normal compared to the agitated state of most patients. This is Daniel, our new nurse, Keller explains. He'll be helping with your care. No, she says flatly. Not him. He has too many. I glance at Keller questioningly. He subtly shakes his head, warning me to stay quiet. Too many what, Miss Alvarez? He asks calmly. Shadows, she whispers, staring at the space around me. 5. People only should have 1. He has 5. Dark ones. Hungry ones. She begins to rock back and forth. They're screaming numbers. Make them stop screaming numbers. Keller smoothly steps between us. Let's focus on your medication, Miss Alvarez. Then maybe some quiet time in the day room? Her eyes remain fixed on me. Or rather, on the apparently empty space around me. 4, 8, 15, 16, she begins to chant, her voice rising. We should go, Keller says quietly, placing her medication cup on the bedside table. She'll take it once we leave. In the hallway, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. What was that about? Patient 11 sees things, Keller says simply. Sometimes she's just delusional, other times. He shrugs. Other times she knows things she shouldn't. Like the day Dr. Miller had a stroke. She told him that morning his head shadow was bleeding inside. We continue our rounds, and I'm introduced to more patients with their own peculiar rules and behaviors. Patient 14 must always be addressed while standing exactly 3 feet away. Patient 16 becomes violent if asked any question containing the word how. Patient 20 requires all medication to be placed in blue cups, never white or clear. By lunchtime, my head is spinning with rules and exceptions and special cases. Keller and I eat quickly in the staff room, neither of us particularly interested in the bland turkey sandwiches provided. "You're doing okay," Keller says suddenly. "Better than the last one." "Thanks, I think." I hesitate, then ask the question that's been bothering me. "What happened to the nurse who ended up as a patient in room 12? Keller's expression darkens. "Stewart, good guy, careful, followed the rules. Then one day, he didn't. He unwraps a granola bar with more force than necessary. Patient 19 has a thing about being approached from the front. That's why the guideline says to enter the room backwards. Stewart got careless. Entered facing forward. And patient 19 didn't physically hurt him, if that's what you're thinking. Just said something to him, whispered something in his ear." Keller shakes his head. "Stewart started screaming. Wouldn't stop. Clawed his own face until we restrained him. Been catatonic ever since, except for occasional fits where he tries to tear his ears off." I stare at Keller, trying to determine if he's messing with me. His expression is deadly serious. "What did patient 19 say to him?" "No idea. Stewart never told anyone. But whatever it was." Keller trails off, then checks his watch. Break's over. We need to check on Rachel. Patient 23. Dr. Winters wants a full assessment after yesterday's incident. Is that wise, given her reaction to me? Dr. Winters thinks exposure might help. Besides, we need to understand why she recognized you. I follow Keller to room 23, anxiety building with each step. Rachel's outburst wasn't random. It was specific, targeted, and deeply unsettling. Outside her room, Keller pauses. She's restrained, but be careful. Don't get close enough for her to grab you. He unlocks the door, and we enter to find Rachel secured to her bed with padded restraints. Her forehead is bandaged from her self-injury yesterday, but her eyes are alert and track us as we enter. When she sees me, a smile spreads across her face. Not hostile, but knowing. Intimate, almost. "Daniel," she says softly, "you came back." "Miss Weaver," Keller says professionally, "we need to do an assessment after yesterday's episode. Can you tell us why you were upset?" She ignores him completely, her gaze fixed on me. "You don't remember me, do you?" "Not yet, but you will." Despite myself, I step closer. "Have we met before?" "Many times," she says cryptically. "In the spaces between." Keller shoots me a warning look, but I press on. "What do you mean? How do you know my name?" "The same way I know you'll find her tonight," Rachel replies, her smile widening. "In the west corridor, behind the wall that doesn't exist." Her voice drops to a whisper. "She's been waiting for you, Daniel. The one you lost, the one you killed." Ice floods my veins. "I've never killed anyone." Rachel laughs. A shockingly normal, musical sound in this abnormal place. Not in this life, maybe. But there are others. So many others. The threads cross here, at Blackwood. The thin place. "That's enough," Keller interrupts. "Miss Weaver, you need to remain calm or we'll have to sedate you." She ignores him again. "Go to the west corridor tonight, Daniel. The empty space between rooms 13 and 14. The wall that looks solid but isn't. She'll be waiting." "There is no space between 13 and 14, Keller says firmly. "And you know patients aren't allowed in the corridors at night." Rachel's smile never wavers. "Not patients. Staff. The night nurse from before. The one with your face, Daniel." A chill runs down my spine. "What are you talking about?" "Your face," she repeats. "Your name. Your hands. Her eyes glitter with unshed tears. She loved you, you know, even as you cut her open. That's it, Keller declares, pulling a syringe from his pocket. She needs a timeout. As he administers the sedative, Rachel maintains eye contact with me. West corridor. Midnight. The wall that isn't there. Her words slur as the medication takes effect. Find her, Daniel, before she finds you. Back in the hallway, Keller runs a hand over his face, clearly frustrated. Don't listen to her ramblings. The West corridor is off limits to new staff anyway. Why? I ask, still shaken by Rachel's words. Unstable patients, advanced cases. Keller starts walking, expecting me to follow. Just focus on our ward for now. The rest of the day passes in a blur of medications, assessments, and more bizarre patient interactions. By the time my shift ends at 8 p.m., I'm exhausted, my mind overwhelmed with new information and unsettling exchanges. I should go straight to my apartment, take a sleeping pill, and force myself to rest. That would be the sensible thing to do. Instead, I find myself wandering the hospital's maze-like corridors, following signs to the West Wing. Rachel's words echo in my head. The wall that doesn't exist. The West Corridor is quieter than C Ward, its lighting dimmer. The room numbers jump from 13 to 14, with no apparent space between. I stare at the walls separating them, an unremarkable stretch of pale green paint over concrete block. Looks pretty solid to me, I mutter. Most walls do, comes a voice behind me. I whirl around to find Dr. Friedman standing there, hands clasped behind his back. Until you know what you're looking for. I was just exploring, I explained lamely. Of course you were. His tone suggests he knows exactly why I'm here. Curious about Rachel's claims? I hesitate, then nod. How did you know? Word travels. Small hospital. He approaches the wall, running his fingers along its surface. You know, Daniel, sometimes patients experience time differently. Their perceptions aren't linear like ours. What does that mean? It means Rachel might be remembering something that hasn't happened yet, or happened in a different configuration. His fingers stop at an unremarkable section of wall. Ah, here we are. To my astonishment, he presses against the wall, and a section slides silently inward, revealing a hidden door. What the hell? I breathe. Original wing had isolation rooms that were later walled off during renovation. Friedman explains, this one was overlooked in the blueprints. He gestures inside. After you. Everything tells me not to follow this strange doctor into a hidden room, but curiosity overrides my caution. I step through the doorway into darkness. Friedman follows, pulling the wall closed behind us. A click and dim light fills the space. An old examination room, dust-covered and abandoned. Medical equipment from decades past sits rusting in corners. What is this place? I ask, my voice sounding muffled in the enclosed space. A remnant, Friedman answers cryptically, from when Blackwood had different research interests. My attention is drawn to the far wall, where faded photographs are pinned to a corkboard. I step closer, squinting in the dim light, then freeze. Among the yellowed photos of hospital staff is a face I recognize instantly. My face. Except the photo is clearly decades old, the uniform from another era entirely. Beneath it, a nameplate. Daniel Parker, head nurse, Ward X, 1970. 3 to 1979. This is some kind of joke, I whisper, my mouth suddenly dry. Is it? Friedman is watching me closely. Your personnel file says you were born in 1988, yet here you are, looking exactly the same in 1973. That's not possible. It's not me. Of course not. Friedman removes the photo from the board and hands it to me. Just an extraordinary coincidence. Your doppelganger, perhaps. I stare at the image. The resemblance is uncanny. Not just similar, but identical. Same eyes, same slight asymmetry to my smile, same small scar on my chin from a childhood accident. Who was he? I managed to ask. A nurse, like you. Dedicated, skilled. Friedman's voice takes on a storytelling quality. Until the incident with patient X17, a young woman with claims of precognition. She became fixated on him. Said he was someone from her past. Or her future. The lines blurred for her. My hands begin to tremble. What happened? She was found dead. Surgical dissection. Very precise work. Friedman watches me carefully. Daniel Parker disappeared the same night. Was never found. I back away from the photo board, suddenly desperate for air. I should go. Yes, perhaps you should. Friedman makes no move to stop me as I fumble for the hidden door. One last thing, Daniel. Patient X17's name was Rachel Weaver. Same birthday, same fingerprints as our current patient 23. I freeze, hand on the wall. That's impossible. Many things at Blackwood seem impossible. Friedman smiles thinly. Until they happen. I push through the hidden door, practically running back to the safety of familiar corridors. My heart pounds in my chest, my breathing ragged. It can't be real. A prank. An initiation ritual. Has to be. Back in my apartment, I lock the door and sit on the edge of my bed, trying to rationalize what I've seen. The photo could be doctored. Rachel could have heard my name from staff before I arrived. Friedman could be messing with me. Yet as I close my eyes, I see flashes of unfamiliar memories. Surgical instruments, laid out in precise rows. A woman's trusting smile, blood pooling on white sheets. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Patient 17 requests white roses tomorrow. Break the rule, Daniel. You know you want to. You always do. I stare at the message until my vision blurs, wondering what the hell I've gotten myself into at Blackwood Hospital, and whether I'm actually the patient zero of whatever madness infects this place. Morning comes too quickly. I must have fallen asleep eventually, though I don't remember when. My dreams were a chaotic blend of hospital corridors that shifted and changed, patients with my face, and blood. So much blood. Running in rivulets across tiled floors. The mysterious text about patient 17 and white roses haunts me as I shower and dress. Who sent it? And why encourage me to break a rule that's supposedly for everyone's safety? I check my phone again, but there's no trace of the message. It's gone, as if it never existed. I'm halfway through my tasteless cafeteria oatmeal when Keller finds me. "You look like shit," he announces, dropping into the chair across from me. "Rough night?" "You could say that." I push my breakfast away, appetite gone. "Quick question. Is there a patient 17 in Ward C who has issues with white roses?" Keller's spoon pauses halfway to his mouth. "Vincent." "Yeah. Why?" "Just trying to keep the rules straight." I lie. "Rules simple. No white roses, no white anything around Vincent. And if someone did bring white roses in?" Keller sets his spoon down carefully. "Why are you asking?" "Just curious about the consequences. Last time it happened was before my time," he says slowly. "But apparently Vincent killed 2 orderlies and nearly decapitated himself with the broken glass from a picture frame. Took 6 staff members to subdue him." Keller leans forward. "Someone suggesting you should try it?" "No, of course not," I say quickly. "Just wondering why the rule exists." Keller's eyes narrow, but he lets it drop. "We've got a busy morning. Dr. Winters wants to observe your interaction with Rachel. Says you've established a noteworthy rapport. Is that good or bad?" "With Winters? Who knows?" He stands. "Let's go. And Daniel, stay away from Vincent today. He's already agitated for some reason." Ward C is in chaos when we arrive. Alarms blare. Staff rush between rooms, and the unmistakable smell of blood hangs heavy in the air. "What the hell happened?" Keller demands of a passing orderly. "Patient 17, the man replies grimly. "Someone left something white in his room overnight. He's destroyed everything. Injured himself and Nurse Phillips." My blood runs cold. "How badly?" "Phillips lost 2 fingers. Patients in restraints now, but it was a bloodbath. As if on cue, 2 staff members wheel a gurney past us, its occupant moaning beneath blood-soaked blankets. Another staff member follows, carrying a small medical cooler, presumably containing the severed fingers, preserved for potential reattachment. "Who would do that?" Keller mutters, more to himself than to me. "Everyone knows the rules about Vincent." I feel sick, remembering the vanished text message. Could it be coincidence? I want to believe so, but the timing is too perfect. "We need to secure the ward," Keller says, suddenly all business. "Morning meds will be delayed. Help me check all the rooms." We move quickly from room to room, ensuring each patient is accounted for and secure. Most are agitated by the commotion, and it takes longer than usual to complete our checks. By the time we reach room 23, Dr. Winters is already there, reviewing Rachel's chart. "Ah, Mr. Parker," she says, her tone neutral. "I was hoping to observe your interaction with patient 23 today. Her fixation on you is noteworthy." "I'm not sure that's a good idea," I begin, but Winters cuts me off. "On the contrary, sometimes engaging with a patient's delusion can provide therapeutic insight." She gestures to the door. "Shall we?" Rachel is awake, the restraints from yesterday removed. She sits cross-legged on her bed, hair falling over her face, humming softly to herself. When we enter, she looks up immediately, eyes finding mine with unsettling precision. "The white flowers bloomed," she says, matter-of-factly. "Just like last time." Dr. Winters makes a note on her tablet. "Rachel, do you remember meeting Nurse Parker yesterday?" "I remember all the times I've met Daniel," she replies, still staring at me. "Past, present, future. The lines blur here." "And why is that?" Winters prompts. "Because Blackwood sits on a thin place, where realities stack like pages in a book." Rachel tilts her head. "You saw the photograph, didn't you, Daniel? Your other self." My mouth goes dry. "What photograph?" "The one Dr. Friedman showed you, in the room that doesn't exist." Dr. Winters' pen stills. "Dr. Friedman from neurology? When did he show you a photograph, Mr. Parker?" I flounder, caught between truths. "I ran into him yesterday. He was showing me old hospital archives." "Interesting," Winters murmurs, making another note. "Rachel, what do you mean by Daniel's other self?" "The one who cut open the other me," Rachel says simply. "In 1979. We keep playing these roles over and over. Sometimes he kills me. Sometimes I kill him. Sometimes we both survive." Her gaze never leaves my face. "I wonder which version this will be." "That's enough," I say sharply, unnerved. "I've never met you before I came to Blackwood. Not in this lifetime," she agrees, "but there are others. So many others. The white roses always signal the change." Dr. Winters observes our exchange with clinical interest. "Rachel, did you know about the incident with patient 17 this morning?" Rachel smiles enigmatically. "The roses always bloom before the cutting begins." A chill runs down my spine. "What cutting?" "The girl in room 19, Rachel says, her voice dropping to a whisper. "She'll be next. Tonight. Unless you stop it, Daniel." "That's enough for today," Winters declares, closing her tablet. "Thank you, Rachel. You've been very helpful." As we exit the room, Winters pulls me aside, out of Keller's earshot. "Fascinating case," she says quietly. "Her delusions are remarkably consistent and structured." She studies my face. "You seem disturbed by her claims." "Wouldn't anyone be? She's basically accusing me of being a murderer from the 1970s. And the reference to Dr. Friedman is interesting." "Why's that?" Winter's expression shifts subtly. "Because Dr. Eric Friedman, our former neurologist, died 3 years ago." My blood turns to ice. "What?" "Heart attack. Quite sudden. We have a commemorative plaque in the East Wing." Winter's eyes narrow slightly. "So I'm curious who you actually spoke with yesterday." Before I can respond, Keller calls urgently from down the hall. "Dr. Winters, we need you in room 16. "We'll continue this discussion later," Winters says, already moving toward the commotion. "Stay with Rachel. I want to observe more of your interaction when I return." Left alone in the hallway, I try to process what Winters just told me. If Friedman died 3 years ago, then who showed me the hidden room? Who gave me the photograph? I glance back through the window of Rachel's room. She's watching me, that same knowing smile on her face. She raises her hand and mimics cutting motions with her fingers. The rest of the day is a blur of incident reports, rescheduled medications, and heightened security measures after the morning's violence. I don't see Dr. Winters again, and Keller is too busy coordinating with security to ask more questions about my strange interaction with Rachel. By the time my shift ends, I'm physically and mentally exhausted, yet sleep is the last thing on my mind. I need answers, and there's only one place I might find them. The west corridor is deserted when I arrive. The night shift staff concentrated in the more populated areas of the hospital. I find the section of wall between rooms 13 and 14 easily enough, but it looks completely solid. No hint of the hidden door Friedman showed me. I run my hands along the surface, searching for any irregularity. Nothing. I press against different sections, hoping to trigger whatever mechanism revealed the door before. Still nothing. "It won't open for you tonight," comes a voice behind me. I spin around to find an elderly janitor watching me, leaning on his mop. His name tag reads, Morton. "Excuse me?" The door. "It opens when it wants to, not when you want it to." He shuffles closer. "Been here 40 years. Seen all kinds of strange things." "Like doctors who've been dead for 3 years?" I ask, desperation making me reckless. Morton nods sagely. "The doctor shows up sometimes. So do others who've passed on. This place has memory." He taps his mop handle against the wall. "These walls remember everything that's happened here. Everything that will happen." That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't have to make sense to be true. Morton begins mopping the floor methodically. "You should check room 19. Girl there's in danger." My skin prickles. "How do you know that?" "Heard the whispers. Always do, this time of night." He continues mopping, seemingly unbothered. 3 patients died in room 19 over the years. All women. All cut open. Always on nights when patient 17 gets upset about something white. Rachel's warning echoes in my head. "The girl in room 19. She'll be next. Tonight." "Who's in room 19 now?" I ask urgently. "Young woman. New admission." Haven't seen her yet myself. Morton stops mopping and looks at me intently. "They say she looks like someone from before. Someone who died here." Without another word, I hurry toward room 19. Morton's cryptic warnings and Rachel's predictions fueling my growing dread. I've never been to this part of the ward before. Keller deliberately avoided it during our rounds. The corridor leading to room 19 is dimly lit, one flickering fluorescent tube casting more shadows than light. I approach cautiously, aware that I'm breaking several rules by being here without authorization. The window in room 19's door is frosted, allowing only vague shapes to be seen from outside. I can make out a figure on the bed, seemingly asleep. A female patient, slight build, dark hair spread across the pillow. I hesitate, hand on the door handle. According to the guidelines, I'm supposed to enter room 19 backwards, never facing forward. It seems absurd, but after what happened to patient 17 this morning, I'm not taking chances. Turning my back to the door, I carefully push it open and step backward into the room. The air inside is noticeably colder, raising goosebumps on my arms. "Hello," I call softly, still facing away from the bed. "I'm Nurse Parker. I'm just checking on you." No response. I take another step backward. "I'm going to turn around now, if that's okay," I say, following some instinct to narrate my actions. Slowly, I turn to face the patient, and the breath leaves my lungs in a rush. The woman on the bed looks exactly like Sarah, my ex-fiancée from Seattle. The same delicate features, the same chestnut hair. But that's impossible. Sarah is dead. Died 6 months ago in a car accident. An accident I survived. "Sarah," I whisper, knowing it can't be her. The woman's eyes open, and for a split second I think I've lost my mind. Then I notice the subtle differences. Her eyes are green, not brown. Her nose slightly wider. Not Sarah, but so similar it's uncanny. "Who are you?" she asks, voice groggy with medication. "Daniel Parker. I'm a nurse here." I take a cautious step closer. "What's your name?" "Claire," she responds, pushing herself up to sitting position. "Claire Walsh. They brought me here yesterday. I don't know why." "You don't know why you're here?" She shakes her head, confusion clouding her features. "I was at home. Then men came. Said I was danger to myself. But I wasn't. I wasn't doing anything wrong." Her voice rises slightly. "They gave me shots. Brought me here. No one will tell me why." I glance at the chart hanging at the foot of her bed. The admission notes are sparse. Patient exhibits signs of delusional disorder with potential for self-harm. Claims to be receiving messages from parallel dimensions. Involuntary commitment, authorized by Dr. E. Winters. "Do you know what day it is, Claire?" I ask gently. "Tuesday, April 16th. It's Thursday, April 18th. I correct her. "You've been here for 2 days. Her eyes widen. "That's not possible. I just got here. Just woke up." A chill runs through me. "Claire, has anyone else visited you tonight?" "Just the doctor. The old one with the glasses. Said I needed to prepare myself." My heart rate spikes. "Prepare for what?" "The procedure." She rubs absently at her wrist where I notice a small bandage. "He took some blood. Said I was special. That I had the same markers as the others." "What others?" "The others like me. From before." Claire's eyes suddenly focus sharply on mine. "He said you'd come. Said you always do." The hair rises on the back of my neck. "Who said that?" "The doctor. Friedman." She tilts her head, studying me. "He said you're drawn to me because of what happened before. What you did to the others." I back away slightly. "I've never met you before." "Not me." Claire agrees. "The others. The ones who came before. The ones you cut open." My back hits the door. "I've never hurt anyone." "Not in this life," she says, echoing Rachel's earlier words exactly. "But there are others. So many others. I need to get you out of here." I say suddenly, decision made. "You're not safe." "Because of you?" she asks, remarkably calm. "I don't know. Maybe." I run a hand through my hair, thoughts racing. But someone's trying to recreate something that happened here long ago. Something involving murder. Claire studies me for a long moment, then nods. "I believe you." "You do?" "I've been having dreams since they brought me here. Dreams of this place. Of you." She swings her legs over the side of the bed. "In some dreams you save me. In others you kill me. I'd prefer the first version." "That makes 2 of us," I mutter. "Can you walk?" She stands shakily. "I think so. The drugs are wearing off." I peek into the hallway, still deserted. "We need to move quickly. I'll take you to a secure area, then find help." "Where?" I think frantically. Where would be safe? Not my apartment. That's the first place they'd look. Not the main exits. Too many security cameras. The hidden room, I decide. Between rooms 13 and 14. "It won't be there," Claire says with absolute certainty. "What do you mean?" "The door only appears when it needs to. When the cycle demands it." She sways slightly on her feet. "We need to go to the basement instead. That's where it ends. Always." How could you possibly know that? The same way I know your middle name is Thomas. The same way I know you have a scar on your left thigh from a bicycle accident when you were 12. Her green eyes bore into mine. "I know you, Daniel. Not this you, but all the versions. Just as you know me." I don't. I begin, but falter. Because in some strange way, she does feel familiar. Not just because of her resemblance to Sarah, but something deeper. A recognition that transcends logic. The lights in the corridor flicker suddenly. Once, twice, 3 times. Rule 9. If the lights flicker 3 times, remain perfectly still until they stabilize. I freeze instinctively, pulling Claire close to me. She trembles against my chest, her breath warm against my neck. The hallway goes completely dark for 3 long seconds. Then the emergency lights kick in, bathing everything in a sickly red glow. "We need to move," I whisper. Now, we slip into the corridor, moving as quietly as possible toward the stairwell. Every shadow seems to reach for us. Every distant sound a potential threat. We're halfway to the stairs when I hear it. The distinctive squeak of a gurney being pushed slowly toward us. In the red emergency lighting, I can make out a figure rounding the far corner. A figure in white, pushing what appears to be a surgical trolley. "Hide!" I hiss, pulling Claire into an alcove. We press ourselves against the wall, scarcely breathing as the squeaking grows louder. The red light throws everything into nightmarish relief, making it difficult to trust what I'm seeing. The figure pauses directly across from our hiding place. In the dim light, I can now see it's dressed in outdated medical attire. A white coat from another era. Surgical mask dangling beneath a chin I recognize instantly. My chin, my face, the man from the photograph. He turns slowly, eyes scanning the hallway, landing precisely where we hide. A smile spreads across his face. My face, revealing teeth, too sharp, too numerous to be human. "I can smell you, Claire," he calls softly. "You and Daniel both. Always the same, cycle after cycle." Claire's fingers dig into my arm. "Don't respond," she whispers. Never respond to the voices. Rule 1. Never acknowledge voices that know your name unless you can see the speaker. But I can see him. And he's me. The doppelganger's smile widens impossibly. "Time for your procedure, Claire. Patient 17 is very upset about those white roses. Blood must answer blood." He pats the surgical tools laid out on his trolley. "Daniel knows how this works. Don't you, Daniel? Sometimes you're the cutter. Sometimes you're the hero. Today?" He chuckles. "Today we'll find out." My heart hammers in my chest as the thing with my face turns away, continuing down the corridor, the squeaking gurney receding slowly. "What the hell is going on here?" I whisper when he's gone. "The cycle," Claire replies simply. "Blackwood is a place where realities overlap, where patterns repeat." She tugs on my hand. "We need to reach the basement. It's the only place we can break the pattern." "How do you know all this?" "The same way Rachel does. We're sensitive to the overlaps. We can see the patterns." She pulls me toward the stairwell. "Hurry! He'll come back. He always does." As we descend the stairs, the emergency lights flicker again, plunging us momentarily into darkness. When they return, the stairwell has subtly changed. Older, dirtier, the walls covered in peeling paint rather than the modern surface from moments before. "What just happened?" I ask, disoriented. "We've shifted," Claire explains, seemingly unsurprised. "Into an older version of Blackwood. It happens near thin places." The basement door at the bottom of the stairs is heavy steel, rusted around the edges. No admittance is stenciled across it in faded red letters. "This is it," Claire says. "The place where it began, and where it can end." I hesitate, hand on the door. "What exactly are we doing here, Claire?" "Stopping the cycle." She meets my eyes steadily. "Either you kill me in there, like all the other Daniels killed all the other versions of me, or we break the pattern. I would never hurt you." "Not willingly," she agrees. "But Blackwood has a way of making people do things against their nature." She takes a deep breath. "We have to try. Otherwise, we're just pawns in this endless loop." I push open the door, and the smell hits me immediately. Antiseptic, layered over something metallic and organic. Blood, old and new. The basement is a vast chamber filled with antiquated medical equipment. Surgical lamps hang from the ceiling, their glass dusty but intact. Gurneys line one wall, leather restraints dangling from their sides. Against the far wall stands a massive cabinet filled with surgical tools, each meticulously arranged. In the center of the room is an operating table, its surface stained dark despite attempts to clean it. Jesus, I breathe. What is this place? The truth of Blackwood, comes a voice from the shadows. Dr. Winters steps into the light, her usual professional demeanor replaced by something harder, colder, the heart of our research. Behind her emerge several orderlies, including Keller, their expressions blank and unreadable. You weren't supposed to find this place so quickly, Daniel, Winters continues. Most iterations take at least a week before the pattern fully establishes. Iterations? I echo. What are you talking about? The cycle, Mr. Parker. Surely Claire has explained it by now. Winters gestures to the operating table. Every few years, the conditions align. A Daniel Parker arrives at Blackwood. A Claire Walsh is admitted, and history attempts to repeat itself. The murder from 1979, I say slowly. But why? What's the point? Research, of course. Winters steps closer. Blackwood sits at a unique intersection of dimensional realities. Here, patterns recur with predictable variations. By studying these patterns, we can understand the nature of reality itself. By watching me kill her? I ask incredulously. Or by watching whatever that thing upstairs with my face is kill her? Sometimes you kill her, Winters acknowledges. Sometimes she kills you. Sometimes you both escape. Each iteration teaches us something new about the fundamental nature of choice and determinism. Claire steps forward, surprisingly steady. You're manipulating people's lives, playing God. We're observing natural phenomena, Winters corrects. The Daniels and Claires are drawn here, regardless of our intervention. We simply optimize the experimental conditions. By triggering patient 17 with white roses, I realize aloud, causing chaos as a distraction while your ghost from 1979 prepares to recreate his crime. Daniel Parker from 1979 was brilliant, Winters says, something like admiration in her voice. A gifted surgeon who understood what we were trying to accomplish here. He volunteered to anchor himself to this place, to become a constant across all iterations. He's a monster, Claire says flatly. He's a scientist, Winters counters. As am I. She nods to the orderlies. Secure them both. It's time to proceed with the current iteration. Keller and the others move forward. I back up, putting myself between them and Claire. Keller, this is insane, I plead. You can't be part of this. It's necessary, he replies mechanically. For the research, for understanding. What research could possibly justify murder? Quantum immortality, comes a familiar voice. Dr. Friedman, or whatever wears his appearance, steps from the shadows beside Winters. The study of consciousness across multiple realities. Each death here creates a branch, you see. A new timeline where different choices are made. And you observe all these branches? I ask, stalling for time as I search for any possible escape. We observe, we record, we learn, Friedman confirms. After decades of study, we're beginning to map the consciousness web that connects all possible realities. At the cost of innocent lives, Claire interjects. A small price for understanding the fundamental nature of existence, Winters says dismissively. Now, enough discussion. Keller, proceed. Keller lunges forward, reaching for Claire. I intercept him, driving my shoulder into his chest. He's heavier, stronger, but surprise gives me the advantage for a precious moment. Run, I shout to Claire, grappling with Keller. She hesitates, then bolts for the door, only to be intercepted by two orderlies. As I struggle with Keller, I see the others forcing Claire toward the operating table. Stop fighting, Daniel, Winters says calmly, preparing a syringe. This iteration is proceeding exactly as predicted. You resist, you struggle, but in the end, the pattern holds. Fuck your pattern, I snarl, breaking free from Keller only to be grabbed by another orderly. As they drag me toward the table where Claire is now being strapped down, the lights flicker again, once, twice, 3 times. On the third flicker, the room plunges into darkness. When the emergency lights activate, casting everything in that same bloody glow, he's there. The other Daniel, standing beside the operating table, surgical tools gleaming in his hands. Right on schedule, he says, his voice an unsettling echo of my own. Hello, Claire. Hello, Daniel. Shall we begin? Blood pounds in my ears as I struggle against the hands holding me. This can't be happening. This can't be real. The doppelganger raises a scalpel, the blade catching the red light as he brings it toward Claire's exposed throat. No! I scream, wrenching free with desperate strength. I lunge forward, colliding with my mirror image as his blade descends. Pain explodes across my palm as the scalpel slices through flesh instead of Claire's. Blood, my blood, sprays across the surgical table, across Claire's face, across the grinning face of my doppelganger. Interesting variation, he comments, seemingly unfazed by my intervention. Let's see where this leads. He moves with inhuman speed, the scalpel flashing toward me now. I grab his wrist, feeling skin that's too cold, too smooth to be human. You can't stop the pattern, he hisses in my ear as we struggle. It always ends in blood. Always. Maybe, I grunt, forcing his hand back. But not her blood. Not this time. With a final surge of strength, born of desperation, I turn the scalpel toward him, driving it up and under his ribs. His eyes widen in surprise, an expression I've seen in the mirror countless times. Impossible, he gasps. This isn't the pattern. Black liquid, not blood, oozes from the wound as he staggers backward. The orderlies release Claire, backing away in confusion and fear. What have you done? Winters demands, aghast. Do you have any idea what you've just interfered with? The doppelganger collapses to his knees, form already beginning to blur and shift, as if losing cohesion. His face, my face, stretches and distorts unnaturally. Pattern broken, he wheezes, but not ended, never ended. An unearthly howl escapes his throat as his body seems to fold in on itself, collapsing into a puddle of oily darkness that rapidly evaporates, leaving nothing behind but the bloodied scalpel on the floor. In the stunned silence that follows, Claire sits up, quickly working to free herself from the remaining restraints. This changes nothing, Winters says finally, composing herself. The pattern will reassert. It always does. She turns to Keller and the others. Secure them. We'll proceed with Alternative Protocol 7. But Keller doesn't move. None of them do. They stand frozen, staring at the space where the doppelganger vanished. Did you hear me? Winters snaps. Secure them. I heard you, Keller says slowly, his voice different somehow, more his own. But I don't think I will. What? Winters takes a step back, uncertainty crossing her face for the first time. Whatever hold that thing had on us, Keller continues. It's gone. I can think clearly again. He looks at me, confusion and horror dawning in his eyes. What have we been doing here? All these years? Research, Friedman interjects smoothly. Critical, groundbreaking research. Murder, Keller corrects, voice hardening. We've been facilitating murder. The other orderlies murmur in agreement, backing away from Winters and Friedman, moving toward the door. This is temporary, Winters insists. The pattern will reassert. It always does. Maybe, I say, helping Claire to her feet. But not today. As we move toward the exit, Winters makes one last desperate plea. You can't leave Blackwood. None of you can. You're part of the cycle now. Watch us, Claire replies, taking my hand in hers. The last thing I see as we leave the basement is Winters standing alone in the red glow, surrounded by the tools of her gruesome research. The the certainty in her eyes giving way to something I never expected to see there. Fear. The pattern might not be broken forever, but tonight, at least, we've defied it. And as Claire and I emerge into the cool night air outside Blackwood's oppressive walls, I realize that's enough for now. The rules no longer bind us. Freedom tastes like early morning mist and pine-scented air. Claire and I stand at the edge of Blackwood's property, watching the sunrise paint the imposing building in deceptively warm hues. We haven't spoken much since our escape, both processing the night's impossible events in stunned silence. "Where do we go now?" Claire finally asks, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "I have a car," I say. "Staff parking lot, if we can get to it without being seen." "They won't stop us," she interrupts with strange certainty. "Not yet. They need time to regroup, to recalibrate the pattern." I glance at her, shivering in her thin hospital gown. "You need clothes, and we both need rest. And you need medical attention," she adds, nodding toward my hand. I've wrapped my sliced palm in a makeshift bandage torn from my shirt, but blood still seeps through, leaving a trail of crimson droplets behind us. There's a motel about 20 miles south, I recall. We could hole up there, figure out our next move. Claire nods, and we skirt the tree line toward the parking lot. True to her prediction, we encounter no opposition. The few early morning staff members entering the building pay us no attention, their eyes sliding past us as if we're invisible. "They don't see us," Claire murmurs as we reach my car. The pattern is still adjusting. "What does that mean exactly?" I ask, unlocking the door. "How much of what Winters said was true?" Claire slides into the passenger seat, pulling her knees to her chest. "Most of it, I think. Blackwood exists at a convergence point, where different realities overlap. She's been studying it for decades. And us? Where do we fit in? We're constants," she says simply. "In every iteration, every reality where Blackwood exists, there's a Daniel Parker and a Claire Walsh. Sometimes names change, sometimes circumstances vary, but the pattern remains." I start the car, wincing as my injured hand grips the steering wheel. "And the pattern is that I'm supposed to kill you? Or that thing with my face is?" "It's more complicated than that." Claire stares out the window as Blackwood recedes in the distance. "Sometimes you save me. Sometimes I save you. Sometimes we both die." The variations are what they're studying. But why us? What makes us special? She turns to face me, her green eyes too old for her young face. "Because we're the first. The original Daniel and Claire were part of an experiment at Blackwood in 1979. Something went wrong, or right, depending on your perspective. Their deaths created a fracture point, a place where realities split. The road winds through dense forest, putting miles between us and the psychiatric facility. I try to process Claire's explanation, fitting it against the inexplicable events I've witnessed. "So that thing that looked like me, an echo," Claire supplies. "Not quite a ghost, not quite real. A consciousness fragment trapped in the loop. And Friedman. The real one is dead, but I spoke to something wearing his appearance. The same. Echoes of people significant to Blackwood, preserved by the pattern." I lapse into silence, focusing on driving despite the throbbing pain in my hand. We reach the motel, a rundown place called the Pineview that's seen better decades. Just as Claire begins to doze off against the window, the elderly clerk barely glances at us as I check in, handing over cash for a week's stay without question. Either he's used to strange visitors, or Claire is right about our temporary invisibility to normal perception. "Bathroom," Claire murmurs as soon as we enter the room. She disappears inside, and I hear the shower start moments later. I sink onto the bed, finally examining my hand properly in the harsh light. The cut is deep, but clean. A surgical incision, rather than a jagged tear. It needs stitches, but that would mean questions I can't answer. Claire emerges wrapped in a towel, her wet hair darker against her pale skin. The resemblance to Sarah is still unnerving. but I can see the differences more clearly now. Subtle variations in a familiar template. "Your turn," she says. "I can help with your hand after." The hot water is blissful, washing away blood and fear in equal measure. I stand under the spray until it runs cold, trying to organize my thoughts. When I emerge, Claire has dressed in one of my t-shirts from my hastily packed bag and sits cross-legged on the bed, a first aid kit from the car open beside her. "Where did you learn to do this?" I ask as she carefully cleans and bandages my wound. "I'm a veterinary technician," she replies with a small smile. "Or was before Blackwood. Animals, humans. The principle is similar. Her touch is gentle but confident, and I find myself studying her face as she works. Why do you look like Sarah?" Claire's hands pause momentarily before resuming their task. "Who's Sarah?" "My fiancée. Ex-fiancée. She died 6 months ago." "I'm sorry." Claire secures the bandage with medical tape. "Was it a car accident? On Route 17? My blood goes cold." "How did you know that?" "Because in my reality, it was Daniel who died in that crash." She meets my eyes steadily. "My Daniel, my fiancé, same accident, different outcome." "That's not possible." "After everything you've seen at Blackwood, that's where you draw the line of possibility?" She shakes her head. "I told you, we're constants, variations on a theme. In some realities, I look like Sarah. In others, she looks like me. In some, we're the same person." I move away from her, suddenly needing distance. "This is insane!" "Yes," Claire agrees simply. "By any rational standard, all of this is insane. But it's happening anyway." I pace the small room, trying to process what she's saying. "So what? We're just puppets? Playing out some cosmic drama for Winter's research?" "No, that's what she doesn't understand." Claire's voice hardens. "We have choice, free will. That's why the pattern fascinates her. Because despite all the constants, there are always variables. Decisions that change outcomes. Like me choosing not to kill you." "Exactly." She smiles faintly. "You broke the immediate cycle. It's happened before, but rarely. And now what?" "Now we run. As far from Blackwood as possible." I sink into the room's single chair. "Will that work?" "If what you're saying is true, if we're bound to this pattern." "Distance helps," she interrupts. "The further from Blackwood, the weaker its influence. We can't escape completely, but we can buy time." "Time for what?" Claire's expression turns grim. "To prepare for when the pattern reasserts. Because it will, Daniel. Winters won't give up her research. And the echoes, they're bound to Blackwood's reality. They'll find us eventually." I close my eyes, exhaustion crashing over me. I just wanted a fresh start. A new job. A normal life. "I know." Her voice softens. "So did I." We fall into uneasy silence, the weight of our situation settling between us. Eventually, Claire curls up on one side of the bed, leaving space for me. I hesitate, then settle beside her, careful to maintain distance. "We should get some sleep," I murmur. "Figure out our next move when we're rested." "They'll come tonight," Claire says quietly. "In our dreams. The echoes can reach us there, even at this distance." "What do we do?" "We wake each other if the dreams turn dark. We don't let them pull us back into the pattern." She turns to face me, her expression serious. "Promise me, Daniel. If I start talking in my sleep, if I seem disturbed, wake me immediately." "I promise," I tell her and mean it. Sleep comes surprisingly easily, my body surrendering to exhaustion despite my racing mind. The dreams begin almost immediately. Vivid, disjointed flashes of Blackwood's corridors, operating rooms slick with blood, and faces, so many faces, all wearing expressions of terror. I'm standing over a surgical table, scalpel in hand. Claire lies before me, eyes wide and pleading. "It's necessary," says a voice beside me. Winters, dressed in outdated surgical attire. "For the research, for understanding." My hand moves of its own accord, the blade descending toward Claire's exposed throat. I try to stop, to pull back, but my body isn't my own. Pattern requires completion, says another voice. My voice, but not. My doppelganger stands across the table, watching with hungry eyes. Blood must answer blood. The scalpel touches Claire's skin, a bead of crimson welling up beneath its tip. Please, she whispers. Daniel, please. This isn't you. Something breaks inside me. With monumental effort, I turn the blade away, slashing at my doppelganger instead. The scalpel passes through him like he's made of smoke, and he laughs. A terrible, inhuman sound. You cannot harm me here, he says. This is my domain, the space between realities. Leave us alone, I demand. We've broken your pattern. Temporarily. His smile stretches too wide, revealing too many teeth. But dreams always lead back to Blackwood, to the table, to the cutting. The scene shifts, and suddenly I'm the one restrained. Claire standing over me with the scalpel. Except it's not Claire. Her features shift and flow, becoming Sarah, then Rachel, then someone else entirely. See? My doppelganger whispers in my ear. The pattern adapts, roles reverse, but the outcome remains. I'm about to respond when the dream fragment shudders, reality rippling like disturbed water. My doppelganger frowns, looking around in confusion. Not possible, he mutters. Not yet. A hand grasps my shoulder, shaking firmly. Daniel, wake up! I jolt awake, gasping, to find Claire leaning over me, her face tight with concern. You were thrashing, she says, talking in your sleep. He was there, I pant. In the dream. Said we couldn't escape. I know. He was in mine too. Claire sits back, hugging her knees. But something disrupted him. That's not supposed to happen. I glance at the bedside clock. 3:17 a.m. We've slept less than 4 hours, but I feel no desire to return to the nightmare realm where my doppelganger waits. What disrupted him? I ask. I don't know. Something outside the pattern. Claire runs a hand through her tangled hair, which means we might not be as alone in this as I thought. What do you mean? Others have escaped Blackwood before us, Daniel. Other iterations of the pattern that broke free. She meets my gaze. If we can find them, maybe they can help us understand how to end this permanently. How would we even begin to look for them? Claire moves to the small desk where her admission papers from Blackwood lie scattered. She shuffles through them, pulling out a page I haven't seen before. This was hidden in my file, she explains. I found it while you were showering. It's a list of names and locations. Dozens of them, stretching back decades. Some are crossed out, others circled, a few marked with question marks. I scan the page, my blood turning to ice as I spot a name at the bottom. Daniel Parker, Claire Walsh, Pineview Motel. How the hell? I begin. Winters is tracking all the iterations. Claire explains grimly. The ones that escape, the ones that die, the ones that disappear. This list is probably decades out of date, but it's somewhere to start. I study the names more carefully, noting that many are concentrated in specific regions. New England, the Pacific Northwest, the Great Lakes. Convergence points, Claire says, following my gaze. Places where reality is thin, like Blackwood. The pattern is stronger there. But some got further, I note, pointing to entries in Florida, Arizona, even one in Alaska. Those are the ones we need to find, Claire agrees. The ones who broke free completely. I rub my eyes, trying to think clearly, despite exhaustion and fear. So, our plan is what? Road trip across America hunting down our doppelgangers? When you put it that way, it sounds crazy, Claire admits with a small smile. But yes, essentially, we need resources. Money. I have some savings, but not much. I have an emergency fund too, enough to get us started. Claire hesitates. There's something else we need to consider. The date. What about it? Winter's research indicated pattern convergence points aren't just spatial, they're temporal. Certain dates amplify the effect. Let me guess, I say wearily. The anniversary of the original incident. Claire nods. June 17th. The original Daniel and Claire died at Blackwood on June 17th, 1979. Every year, the pattern intensifies around that date. That gives us, 2 months? Less. The buildup starts earlier. By early June, the echoes will be stronger, harder to resist. She fixes me with an intense stare. We need to be far away from any convergence point by then, or find a way to break the pattern permanently. A sudden knock at our door makes us both freeze. It's nearly 4 a.m., too early for housekeeping, too late for any legitimate visitor. Stay back, I whisper, approaching the door cautiously. Who is it? Delivery for Daniel Parker, comes a gruff voice. I shoot Claire a questioning look. She shakes her head, eyes wide with alarm. I didn't order anything, I call through the door. Special delivery from Blackwood, the voice responds. Dr. Winters sends her regards. Claire's already grabbing our few belongings, shoving them into my bag. I back away from the door as something heavy slams against it, the cheap lock straining. Back door, I hiss, pointing to the bathroom window I'd noticed earlier. It's small, but we should be able to squeeze through. Another impact rattles the door, wood splintering around the lock. Claire disappears into the bathroom as I shove the room's desk against the door. A futile barricade, but it might buy us seconds. I follow Claire into the bathroom, locking that door too, then helping her pry open the window. She goes first, her slight frame sliding through easily. I'm passing our bag to her when the outer door crashes open. Parker, bellows a voice I recognize as one of Blackwood's security guards. There's no point running. I hoist myself up, squeezing through the narrow opening with considerably more difficulty than Claire. My injured hand screams in protest as I drop to the ground outside, the impact sending fresh blood seeping through my bandage. Claire is already running toward the tree line behind the motel. I follow, the shouts of our pursuers fading as we plunge into the dense forest. My car, I gasp. They'll be watching it, Claire pants. We need another way out. We run until our lungs burn, putting as much distance as possible between ourselves and the motel. Dawn is breaking when we finally stop, collapsing beside a small stream to catch our breath. How did they find us so quickly? I ask when I can speak again. The pattern, Claire says grimly. They don't need to physically track us. The convergence points them in our direction. Great, supernatural GPS. I splash cold water on my face. Now what? Claire studies our surroundings. We keep moving. Find a road, hitch a ride if we can. Get as far from Blackwood as possible. And then, we find the others who escaped. She pulls the crumpled list from her pocket, smoothing it against her leg. Starting with the closest one still alive. I peer at the name she indicates, Emily Thorne, Michael Reed, Portland, Maine. That's still hundreds of miles from here, I point out. Then we better start walking. Claire rises, determination hardening her features. Unless you'd prefer to go back to Blackwood and let your creepy twin finish his surgery? Despite everything, I laugh. A short, harsh sound that surprises us both. When you put it that way, Portland sounds lovely this time of year. We follow the stream north, reasoning that it must eventually lead to civilization. The forest is dense, but not impenetrable, and the rising sun makes navigation easier. Neither of us speaks much, conserving energy and listening for any sign of pursuit. Around mid-morning, we hear the distant rumble of traffic. Following the sound, we emerge from the trees to find a 2-lane highway stretching east and west. East, Claire says decisively, toward Portland. We walk along the shoulder, jumping at every passing vehicle, expecting each one to contain Blackwood's security team. After about an hour, we spot a truck stop in the distance. A small diner with attached gas station. We need food, I say, and to figure out exactly where we are. Claire nods, though her expression remains wary. Quick stop only. We're too exposed here. The diner is nearly empty. Just a trucker at the counter and an elderly couple in a booth. The waitress barely glances at us as we slide into a booth far from the windows. "You two look like you've had a rough night," she comments, dropping menus in front of us. Her nameplate reads, Doris. "Car trouble," I lie. "Had to walk a few miles." Doris doesn't sound convinced, but doesn't press. "Coffee while you decide?" We nod gratefully, and she shuffles away to fetch the pot. Claire studies the map on the paper placemat. "We're here," she whispers, pointing to a spot in western Massachusetts. "Portland's about 170 miles east. 2-3 days on foot," I murmur, "if we're lucky." Doris returns with coffee and takes our order. The breakfast special for both of us, the cheapest and most filling option on the menu. As she walks away, the bell above the door jingles, and Claire tenses across from me. I turn slowly, expecting security guards or police, but it's just an ordinary family of 4, the children bickering over who gets to sit by the window. "We're jumpy," I observe, turning back to Claire. "With good reason." She sips her coffee, grimacing at its bitterness. "We need a plan beyond walk to Portland. We need money, transportation, and new identities," I say quietly. "Otherwise, Winters will track us through conventional means, even without her supernatural pattern." "I might be able to help with some of that," comes a voice from the neighboring booth. We both start, hands instinctively reaching for weapons we don't possess. An elderly man peers at us over his newspaper, eyes twinkling with amusement behind thick glasses. "Blackwood escapees, right?" he asks conversationally, as if inquiring about the weather. I recognize the look, the fear, the confusion. He folds his newspaper carefully. "Name's Martin Klein, class of 97. Claire and I exchange bewildered glances. "I don't understand," she finally says. "Blackwood graduating class of 1,997, Martin clarifies, sliding into our booth, uninvited. "That's when I broke pattern and escaped. Been running ever since." My jaw drops. "You're just like you," he confirms. "Well, not exactly. My iteration had different names, different specifics, but same pattern, same choice point. He studies us with sharp eyes. Let me guess. Surgical scenario? Operating table? One of you supposed to kill the other?" Claire lets out a shaky breath. "How did you find us?" "I didn't. You found me." Martin sips his own coffee. "That's how it works. When an iteration breaks free, we resonate with each other, draw together, especially around convergence dates." "June 17th, I murmur. "Exactly." Martin nods approvingly. The anniversary approaches, and the pattern intensifies. All of us, all the escaped iterations, feel the pull. "There are others?" Claire asks eagerly. "Others who broke free completely?" "A few dozen over the decades. We formed a loose network. Support each other. Share information." Martin leans forward. "Which is why I'm here, to offer help." I study him skeptically. "Why should we trust you?" "Because I'm still alive, and free 40 years after escaping Blackwood," he replies simply. "Because I know exactly what you're facing. The dreams, the echoes, the feeling of being hunted by something beyond normal understanding." Our food arrives, and we fall silent as Doris delivers heaping plates of eggs, bacon, and pancakes. When she's gone, Claire speaks. "What kind of help can you offer?" "Money, new identities, transportation to a safe house where you can rest and learn." Martin pulls a business card from his pocket, sliding it across the table. "I maintain various identities. This one's a retired history professor, legitimate enough for what we need to do." I examine the card. "Dr. Martin Klein, Ph.D., Professor Emeritus, Miskatonic University." "Miskatonic isn't real," I point out. "It's from Lovecraft." Martin smiles. "The best cover identities blend truth and fiction, makes them harder to track." He taps the card. "The phone number works. Call it when you're ready." "Ready for what?" Claire asks. "To join the resistance," Martin replies, suddenly serious. "Because that's what we are. The iterations who broke free, who fight against the pattern." We've been working for decades to understand how to break it permanently. And have you, I ask, figured it out? Martin's expression turns grim. We're close. There's a ritual, a counter pattern, that can disrupt the Blackwood convergence. But it requires multiple escaped iterations working in concert, and it can only be performed on June 17th, Claire finishes. The anniversary. At Blackwood itself, Martin confirms. Which means returning to the place you just escaped. I shake my head incredulously. You want us to go back? Not immediately. First, you train, learn, prepare. Martin rises, leaving cash on the table for his coffee. Consider your options. You can keep running. Many iterations do. Or you can help us end this. For all variations of ourselves, past and future. He slides a key across the table. Motel across the street, room 17. Inside you'll find cash, clothes, and a burner phone. Call the number when you decide. His gaze travels between us. But don't wait too long. The pattern is already reasserting. Your doppelgangers will find you again. And next time, they'll be stronger. With that cryptic warning, Martin walks out, leaving Claire and I to stare at the key, our cooling breakfast forgotten. What do you think? I ask finally. Could be a trap. Could be, Claire agrees. Or it could be our only chance to end this permanently. I glance out the window, where Martin is climbing into an ordinary-looking sedan. Nothing about him screams, trap, yet my instincts remain wary. We need the resources either way, I decide, pocketing the key. Let's check out the room at least. As promised, room 17 contains a duffel bag with clothes in roughly our sizes, several $1,000s in cash, fake IDs, and a prepaid phone. Nothing overtly threatening, nothing to indicate Blackwood's involvement. Well, Claire asks, trying on a jacket from the bag. Do we call? I stare at Martin's card, weighing our limited options. Running forever sounds exhausting and ultimately futile. If the pattern is as powerful as everyone claims, it will find us eventually. But returning to Blackwood? Facing the doppelgangers and Winters again? The thought makes my skin crawl. Claire watches me, waiting. I realize with sudden clarity that whatever decision I make now will affect both our fates. Just another variation in the endless pattern that binds us. We call, I decide, finally. We learn what they know. Then we decide if we're joining their resistance. Claire nods, a small smile lifting the corner of her mouth. I was hoping you'd say that. As I dial the number, I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched. Not by anyone physical, but by something beyond normal perception. The pattern itself, perhaps, adjusting to our choices, preparing its countermove in this cosmic game we're unwillingly playing. Martin Klein speaking. Comes the answer after 2 rings. It's Daniel, I say. Daniel Parker. We're in. Excellent, Martin replies, satisfaction evident in his voice. The Resistance welcomes you both. Now, listen carefully. Your journey back to Blackwood begins immediately, but not in the way you might think. As he outlines our next steps, I catch Claire's eye. For the first time since escaping Blackwood, I see something there beyond fear and determination, a flicker of hope. Whether justified or foolish, only time will tell. One thing is certain. The pattern has underestimated us. And patterns, like rules, are meant to be broken. Martin's sedan smells of peppermints and old leather. Claire and I sit in the back, watching the Massachusetts countryside roll past through tinted windows. We've been driving for hours, heading north along back roads that don't appear on any maps I recognize. How many others are there? I ask, breaking the comfortable silence that settled over us. People who escaped the pattern? Martin meets my eyes in the rearview mirror. Currently active? 27 pairs. Pairs? Claire echoes. Variations of us, Martin explains. Different names, different backgrounds, but always the same roles. The potential victim and the potential killer. 2 sides of the same coin. He takes a sharp turn onto an even narrower road. Some pairs don't make it. The pattern reclaims them, or they can't handle the truth and, well, find their own exits. Suicide, I translate grimly. Sometimes, Martin's expression darkens. It's not an easy existence, living with the knowledge that reality itself seems designed to turn you into a killer or a victim. Some minds break under the weight. Claire's hand finds mine in the space between us, her fingers cool against my skin.
But you've managed for 40 years.
I've had help, Martin says, a hint of warmth entering his voice. My partner in pattern breaking. My Claire, though her name is Anna. She's still alive? Claire asks, sounding surprised. Very much so. She's waiting for us at the safe house. Martin's smile is visible even from the back seat. It helps to have someone who understands exactly what you're experiencing. Someone who shares the burden. I glance at Claire, wondering if she feels the same strange connection I do, a bond forged through shared trauma and impossible circumstances. She meets my gaze briefly, then turns back to the window. How much further? I ask. Almost there, Martin replies. One more thing you should know before we arrive. Time works differently for us pattern breakers. The closer to a convergence point we get, the more elastic our perception becomes. Meaning? Claire prompts. Meaning you might experience moments of displacement, flashes of other iterations, other selves. It can be disorienting, but it passes. He slows the car as we approach what appears to be an abandoned farm. Here we are, home sweet home. The safe house is a sprawling farmhouse in serious need of a new roof, surrounded by overgrown fields and dense woods. A weathered barn lists slightly to one side, its red paint faded to a dull rust. Nothing about it screams resistance headquarters. Don't judge by appearances, Martin says, noting our expressions. The exterior is deliberately neglected, keeps curious locals away. He leads us up a sagging porch and through a door that, despite its decrepit appearance, opens smoothly and silently. Inside, the contrast is startling. Modern furnishings, clean lines, and state-of-the-art technology seamlessly integrated into the old farmhouse's structure. Martin, is that you? Calls a voice from the back of the house. It's me, Anna, he responds. I've brought guests. A woman appears in the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on an apron. She's Martin's age, mid-60s, with silver hair cut in a stylish bob and intelligent eyes that assess us immediately. Despite the decades between them, I can see hints of Claire in her features. The same determined set of her jaw, the same direct gaze. Welcome, Daniel and Claire, she says warmly. Lunch is almost ready. You must be starving after your ordeal. We follow her into a kitchen that would make a professional chef envious. The promised lunch turns out to be homemade soup and fresh bread. Simple, but exactly what our exhausted bodies need. So, Anna says once we've eaten, Martin's filled me in on your escape from Blackwood. Impressive work, breaking the pattern so quickly. We got lucky, I admit. And we had help. One of the patients, Rachel, seemed to understand what was happening. Rachel Weaver, Martin murmurs, exchanging a meaningful look with Anna. She appears in many iterations, sometimes as patient, sometimes as staff, sometimes as both. You know her? Claire asks, leaning forward. Not personally, Anna replies. But her name comes up in research. She's a constant, like us, but plays a different role. A catalyst, perhaps. Research, I repeat. What exactly have you been researching for 40 years? Martin rises, gesturing for us to follow. Let me show you. He leads us down a staircase, hidden behind what appeared to be an ordinary pantry door. The basement is nothing like I expected. A high-tech command center with multiple workstations, wall-mounted screens displaying data feeds, and one entire wall covered in photographs, news clippings, and maps connected by red string. Welcome to Pattern Analysis Central, Martin announces, where we track every known iteration, every Blackwood event, every convergence point across time and space. I approach the wall, examining the photographs. Each shows a different pair, Variations of ourselves with different names, different faces, but always with the same haunted look in their eyes. Some photos are ancient, yellowed with age, while others appear recent, in crisp digital color. "That's us," Claire whispers, pointing to a cluster of photos. "Different versions, but still us." "The pattern maintains certain constants," Anna explains, joining us at the wall. "Physical types, personality traits, key events. It creates variations within a framework. But why, I ask? What's the purpose?" "That's the billion-dollar question," Martin sighs. "Our working theory is that the original incident in 1979 created a quantum fracture point, a moment when reality split into multiple branches. Blackwood sits at the center of that fracture, simultaneously existing in all possible branches." "And Winters?" Claire asks. "Is she studying this fracture for scientific reasons? Or is there something more?" "Dr. Elizabeth Winters is as much a constant as we are," Anna says grimly. "In some iterations, she's benevolent. In others, like yours, she's ruthless in her pursuit of knowledge. But her goal remains consistent: to understand and eventually control the pattern." "Control it how?" I press. Martin and Anna exchange another look. "We believe," Martin says carefully, "that Winters is attempting to collapse all possible realities into a single stable timeline, one where she determines the outcome." "That's insane," I sputter. "Even if what you're saying about multiple realities is true, how could anyone control them all?" "The same way Blackwood influences dreams across distance," Anna explains. "The convergence points allow communication and potentially manipulation between realities. Winters has spent decades mapping these points, understanding their mechanisms." "And your resistance is trying to stop her?" Claire asks. "We're trying to heal the fracture," Martin corrects. "Not collapse realities, but separate them properly, so each can exist independently without bleeding into others, without the pattern forcing the same tragedy to repeat endlessly." I turn back to the wall, scanning the countless faces, all variations of ourselves, all caught in the same nightmare. How many iterations have there been? "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands," Anna answers solemnly. "Most never escape Blackwood. Most end in blood." A chill runs through me. "And our plan is to go back there? To the center of all this?" "Eventually," Martin confirms. "But first, we prepare. We train you to understand and resist the pattern's influence." "How exactly do we do that?" Claire asks. "By learning to recognize reality fluctuations," Anna says. "By strengthening your connection to each other. The strongest defense against the pattern is the bond between pairs who've broken free together. And most importantly," Martin adds, "by teaching you to manipulate the convergence points themselves, to bend reality rather than be bent by it." He leads us to a workstation where a complex 3D model rotates on the screen. A map of what appear to be energy flows across the eastern United States, with Blackwood at the center of a swirling vortex. "Convergence points aren't just places," he explains. "They're moments where reality is malleable. Learn to recognize them, and you can use them to your advantage." "I'm still struggling with the basic concept here," I admit, rubbing my temples. "Multiple realities? Reality manipulation? It sounds like science fiction." "Most great scientific discoveries do, until they're proven," Anna says gently. "Consider quantum physics. Particles existing in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Reality at the quantum level is already strange. We're just experiencing it on a macro scale." Claire studies the model intently. "These other points, are they all like Blackwood?" "Lesser versions," Martin confirms. "Echo points, we call them. Places where the pattern resonates, but doesn't originate. They're safer to practice with." "Practice what exactly?" I ask. Anna smiles enigmatically. "Reality jumping, moving between worlds." Before I can process that bombshell, a sharp alarm cuts through the room. Martin rushes to a monitoring station, typing rapidly. "We've got activity," he announces. Pattern surge at Echo Point 3. Multiple reality signatures converging. Winters? Anna asks tensely. No. Different energy pattern. But powerful. Martin looks up at us grimly. Your doppelgangers are hunting. They've picked up your trail faster than expected. My blood runs cold. They can track us here? Not precisely, Anna assures me. They can sense general direction, especially during pattern surges. But our safeguards should hold. As if challenging her words, the lights flicker. Once, twice, 3 times. Claire and I instinctively freeze. Rule 9, apparently ingrained in us already. That's not electrical, Martin says quietly. That's reality fluctuation. They're probing. A strange heaviness fills the air, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. The computer screens flicker, data displays distorting momentarily before stabilizing. Everyone to the containment room, Anna orders, already moving toward a heavy door set in the far wall. Now! We follow quickly, entering what appears to be a medical exam room surrounded by metal walls inscribed with complex symbols. Anna seals the door behind us, activating a series of switches on a control panel. Faraday cage? I guess, recognizing some of the technology. Reality cage, Martin corrects. Designed to stabilize our immediate environment during fluctuations. The air seems to vibrate, a low hum building in my ears. Claire sways slightly beside me, her eyes unfocusing. Stay with us, Claire, Anna says sharply. Focus on my voice. Don't let the pattern pull you. I can hear him, Claire whispers. My doppelganger, he's calling me. Don't listen, I urge, taking her hand. Remember what happened at Blackwood. It's a trap. Claire's grip tightens painfully on mine. Not just calling, she gasps. Showing me. Oh, God. What? Martin presses. What is he showing you? Blackwood. The basement, theirs. She swallows hard. Bodies, dozens of them, variations of us all. Harvested. Organs removed. Brains extracted. Anna pales. Winters is accelerating her research. Show us, Martin demands, wheeling over what looks like an EEG machine. Let us see through your connection. Claire looks terrified, but nods. Anna quickly attaches electrodes to Claire's temples and connects them to the machine, which is also wired to a display screen. Focus on what you're seeing, Anna instructs. Don't fight it, but don't surrender to it either. Observe. Claire closes her eyes, her breathing shallow. The screen flickers, then resolves into blurry images. A sterile room, surgical tables, figures in white coats, moving purposefully among what can only be described as a harvest of human bodies. My God, Martin breathes. She's creating a repository. For what? I demand, struggling to make sense of the nightmarish images. Pattern fragments, Anna explains grimly. Consciousness echoes, the building blocks for something bigger. The image shifts, focusing on a figure supervising the macabre work. Dr. Winters, her face eerily serene as she catalogs the extracted specimens. She's trying to build a perfect vessel, Martin realizes aloud. A unified consciousness that can exist across all realities simultaneously. Using parts of us, I whisper, horror dawning. All these variations of Claire and me, we're not just research subjects, we're donors. The image on the screen suddenly distorts, replaced by a face I recognize immediately, my doppelganger, staring directly at us as if he can see through Claire's connection. Found you, he says, his voice emerging from the machine speakers. The pattern always finds you. Claire convulses, her back arching off the examination table. The monitors spike, alarms blaring as her vital signs fluctuate wildly. Cut the connection, I shout. Anna is already tearing the electrodes away. Claire, come back to us. Claire's eyes snap open, but something's wrong. They're completely black, pupil and iris indistinguishable from sclera. Too late, she says, but the voice isn't hers. It's hollow, echoing, as if coming from a great distance. The convergence accelerates. The harvesting continues. You will return to Blackwood. Get out of her, I demand, grabbing her shoulders.
Claire, fight it!
Her black eyes fix on mine. Claire is elsewhere. This body is temporarily vacated. A smile that doesn't belong on her face spreads slowly. Did you think you were special, Daniel? Did you think you were the first to break pattern?
You're not breaking anything. You're fulfilling it in ways you can't comprehend.
Martin grabs a syringe from a nearby tray, quickly injecting something into Claire's arm. Reality stabilizer, he explains tersely. Should disrupt the connection. Claire's body goes rigid, then collapses. The unnatural blackness receding from her eyes like tide withdrawing from shore. What the hell was that? I demand, cradling her unconscious form. Pattern possession, Anna says grimly. We've seen it before, but never this strong, this far from Blackwood. Which means Winters has enhanced her ability to project across realities, Martin adds. She's getting stronger. The June convergence is amplifying her reach. Claire stirs in my arms, her eyes fluttering open. Normal again. Green and confused. What happened? She mumbles. You were briefly occupied by something from Blackwood, I explain gently. But you're back now. You're safe. Martin and Anna exchange concerned glances. We need to accelerate your training, Anna decides. The pattern is adapting faster than anticipated. No more observation, Martin agrees. We move directly to active countermeasures. What does that mean exactly? I ask, helping Claire sit up. It means, Martin says grimly, we're going to teach you how to reality jump tonight, ready or not. The safe house is compromised. Winters knows our general location, and she'll send more than psychic probes next time. Jump where? Claire asks weakly. Echo Point 2, Anna answers. New Orleans. We have allies there. Other pattern breakers, who can continue your training while we secure new headquarters. New Orleans? I repeat incredulously. That's hundreds of miles away. Distance is irrelevant when reality jumping, Martin explains. It's more about finding the right convergence point, the right moment when realities align. My head spins with the implications. I'm still not convinced any of this is real. Multiple realities? Jumping between them? It sounds insane. After what you just witnessed with Claire, can you really deny what's happening? Anna challenges. She has a point. Whatever possessed Claire wasn't something modern psychiatry could explain. How dangerous is this jumping? I ask instead. There are risks, Martin acknowledges. Disassociation, memory fragmentation. In rare cases, complete personality dissolution. So we could lose ourselves entirely, Claire summarizes, her voice stronger. Become someone else. You could, Anna confirms. But the alternative is waiting for Winters and your doppelgangers to find you, which would be certain death. Or worse, harvesting for her unified consciousness project. When framed that way, the choice becomes clearer. What do we need to do? Martin helps Claire to her feet. First, you need to understand what we're attempting. Reality jumping isn't physical teleportation. It's consciousness transfer between parallel versions of yourselves. Like possession, Claire murmurs. What just happened to me, but in reverse? Exactly, Anna nods. Your consciousness will temporarily occupy your alternate self in the target reality. If successful, you'll eventually integrate with that version, retaining your memories and purpose while gaining their established identity and position. And what happens to the original consciousness in that body? I ask uneasily. Martin and Anna exchange another of their meaningful glances. There's some overlap, Martin finally admits. Sometimes a merging of personalities. Sometimes the original recedes completely. So we're essentially hijacking innocent versions of ourselves, I clarify. Taking over their lives. It's not that simple. Anna counters. The versions we target are already pattern, aware, already in danger from Winters. You're not stealing their lives. You're reinforcing their resistance. It still sounds ethically dubious to me, but our options are rapidly diminishing. And this will keep us safe from Winters? Temporarily, Martin confirms. It buys us time to prepare for the June convergence, when we'll need to return to Blackwood for the final countermeasure. Claire straightens, determination replacing her earlier weakness. I'm ready. Let's do this. Just like that? I ask, surprised by her quick acceptance. Daniel, I just had something from another reality inside my head, she says flatly. I felt what it wants to do to us. If jumping gives us a fighting chance, I'm taking it. Put that way, I can't argue. All right. What's the process? Martin leads us back into the main room, where Anna is already preparing what looks like an unholy marriage between medical equipment and ritual artifacts. Candles burn at precise points around a circular diagram etched into the floor, while monitors display complex waveform patterns. Reality jumping works best with paired entities, which is why you two are perfect candidates. Martin explains. Your connection strengthens the transfer, anchors you in the new reality. The stronger your bond, the more stable the jump, Anna adds, handing us each what appears to be a small copper disc. These are quantum entanglement tokens. They help align your consciousness frequencies during transfer. This is starting to sound less like science and more like magic, I observe. The distinction blurs at quantum levels, Martin says with a shrug. Clarke's third law. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Anna positions us within the circle, facing each other, close enough that our knees touch as we sit cross-legged on the floor. Focus on each other, she instructs. Nothing else matters but your connection. The pattern wants to separate you. Don't let it. Claire's eyes meet mine, uncertainty mingling with resolve. Ready? She asks softly. Not remotely, I admit, but let's do it anyway. Anna begins adjusting equipment while Martin moves around the circle, chanting something that sounds vaguely Latin but isn't quite any language I recognize. The incantation helps focus intent, Anna explains, seeing my skepticism. Linguistic patterns create neural resonance patterns, which influence quantum probability. If you say so, I mutter, trying to focus on Claire's face rather than the increasing absurdity of our situation. The air in the room thickens, that same pre-storm pressure building around us. The candles flicker in unison, though there's no breeze. On the monitors, waveforms begin synchronizing, converging toward a single pattern. Hold tight to each other, Martin warns. The initial separation can be disorienting. Claire reaches for my hands, gripping them tightly. Her skin feels electric against mine, tiny sparks jumping between our fingers. Remember who you are, Anna says urgently as the room begins to spin around us. Remember why you're jumping. Find each other on the other side. The spinning accelerates, reality blurring at the edges of my vision. Claire's face remains the only clear point in my perception, but even she begins to change. Subtle shifts in her features, her hair color fluctuating from brown to blonde to red and back again, as if cycling through all possible versions of herself. Daniel, she says, her voice echoing strangely. Don't let go. Never. I promise. Though I'm not sure if I speak aloud or just think the word. The room dissolves completely, replaced by a kaleidoscopic tunnel of images, flashes of lives I recognize as mine, but have never lived. Myself, as a doctor, as a patient, as a killer, as a savior. Claire in countless variations, sometimes Sarah, sometimes strangers with familiar eyes. Blackwood appears and reappears, its architecture shifting, but its essence unchanged. Always the center, always the source. I see Winters in lab coats, in business suits, in prisoner's garb, in royal regalia across decades and centuries. The pattern transcends time, comes Martin's voice from everywhere and nowhere. Find your anchor point and hold. I focus on Claire, my Claire, the one I escaped Blackwood with, trying to maintain her image in my mind as thousands of alternatives cascade through my consciousness. There, Anna's voice cuts through the chaos. Echo point 2, locked, transfer initiating. Reality fractures completely, my sense of self scattering like light through a prism. I'm everywhere and nowhere, everyone and no one. Claire's hands slip from mine as the void claims us both. The last thing I hear before consciousness fails entirely is Claire's voice, distant but determined. "Find me in New Orleans, Daniel. Find me and remember." Then darkness, complete and absolute. Until I open my eyes to bright sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains in an unfamiliar room, with the distant sound of jazz floating through an open window. I sit up slowly, taking in my surroundings. A tastefully decorated bedroom in what appears to be an old New Orleans townhouse. Photos on the dresser show a version of me with my arm around a woman who resembles Claire but isn't quite her. Hair darker, features sharper. A wave of foreign memories crashes through my mind. A life in New Orleans as Daniel Pearson, trauma surgeon at Charity Hospital, married to Charlotte Weber, psychiatric researcher. A life already entangled with Blackwood, already aware of the pattern. I stumble to the bathroom, staring at my reflection. Still me, but subtly different. Slightly older. A scar on my cheek I never had before. The quantum jump worked. I'm in Echo Point 2, New Orleans. Now, I just need to find Claire, or Charlotte, as she's known here, and determine if she made the journey successfully, or if I'm stranded alone in this unfamiliar reality. As I splash water on my face, trying to integrate the flood of new memories with my original consciousness, I notice something written on the mirror in lipstick. "Remember Blackwood. Remember the pattern. Find me at the hospital. C." Relief washes over me. Claire made it through. Whatever awaits us in this new reality, at least we're facing it together. The pattern has new players in its game now, and we intend to change the rules. New Orleans in May is a symphony of contradictions. Stifling humidity paired with cooling afternoon thunderstorms, elegant architecture alongside crumbling decay, vibrant life coexisting with reminders of death. As I navigate the streets of the French Quarter toward Charity Hospital, I feel the same contradictions within myself. Daniel Parker's memories and instincts overlapping with Daniel Pearson's knowledge and routines. The integration isn't seamless. Sometimes I reach for objects that aren't where Pearson would keep them, or momentarily forget colleagues' names that should be familiar. But with each passing day, the two consciousnesses blend more completely, creating a hybrid self with both sets of experiences. It's been 3 weeks since the quantum jump. 3 weeks of carefully establishing ourselves in this reality, learning the nuances of our new lives while maintaining vigilance against the pattern's influence. 3 weeks of working with the New Orleans branch of the Resistance. 6 other pairs of pattern breakers who monitor Echo Point 2 and prepare for the June convergence. Charity Hospital looms ahead. Its Art Deco facade impressive, despite years of neglect following Hurricane Katrina. In this reality, the hospital was partially reopened as a specialized research facility. A convenient cover for monitoring the Echo Point centered beneath its psychiatric ward. I badge in at the staff entrance, nodding to security guards who know Daniel Pearson well. The elevator takes me to the 5th floor, trauma surgery, my department in this reality. Dr. Pearson is well respected here, a gifted surgeon with an unconventional approach to seemingly hopeless cases. "Morning, Dr. Pearson," calls the charge nurse as I approach the station. "Your wife's looking for you. Said to send you to the research lab when you arrived." "Thanks, Lisa," I reply, the name coming naturally from Pearson's memories. "Any emergent cases I should know about first?" "Just Mr. Rodriguez in 507. Post-op day 2. No complications overnight." I spend 20 minutes reviewing charts and checking on patients. The routine feels both foreign and familiar, my hands remembering skills my original consciousness never learned. When I'm satisfied that nothing requires immediate attention, I head to the research wing where Charlotte works. The lab requires additional security clearance. Retinal scan plus keycard. Inside, the space appears to be a standard medical research facility, but I know better. Behind the conventional equipment and bland decor lies the New Orleans hub of the Resistance. Claire, Charlotte, in this reality, looks up from a microscope as I enter. Her smile is the same across realities, though her appearance has the same subtle differences I noticed in myself. Her hair is shorter, darker, and she moves with the confident precision of someone with years of scientific training that my Claire didn't possess. "You're late," she says by way of greeting, but there's warmth beneath the professional tone. "Checking patients," I reply, closing the door behind me. "Any word from Martin and Anna?" Claire shakes her head. "Not since the encrypted message yesterday. They're still establishing the new safe house in Vermont." "And the others? Any progress with the countermeasure preparation?" She gestures to a seemingly ordinary whiteboard covered with complex equations and diagrams. To the casual observer, it might appear to be advanced neurological research. To us, it's the blueprint for potentially unraveling the pattern. "Javier made a breakthrough with the quantum resonance calculations," she says, referring to another pattern breaker who in this reality is a theoretical physicist. "If he's right, we might be able to create a stable anti-convergence field. Strong enough to disrupt Blackwood's pull? Potentially." She removes her lab coat, revealing the simple blouse and slacks beneath. "Let's discuss it over lunch. More secure." I understand her caution. Though this echo point is monitored by the Resistance, we can never be certain who or what might be listening. Pattern influence can manifest in unexpected ways, even here. We take the back stairs down to the street, choosing a busy cafe a few blocks from the hospital. The noise of the crowd provides cover for sensitive conversations. Martin believes Winters is tracking quantum jumps now, Claire says quietly once we've ordered. That's why they've gone dark. Minimal electronic communication, no more jumps until absolutely necessary. "Can she actually track them?" I ask, concern tightening my chest. I thought the whole point was to move between realities without detection. "The jumps leave. Ripples," Claire explains, drawing patterns in the condensation on her water glass. Subtle distortions at the departure and arrival points. If you know what to look for and have the right equipment, which Winters apparently does. According to Martin's intelligence, yes, she leans forward. There's something else. Something Charlotte knew, but I didn't fully understand until the memories integrated. "What?" Blackwood exists in every reality, but not always as a psychiatric hospital. Her voice drops even lower. In some iterations, it's a research facility, a government black site, even a private residence. But the physical location always serves the same purpose. A convergence point where realities overlap. I'm not seeing the revelation, I admit. The revelation is why that particular spot is a convergence point. Claire's eyes hold mine intently. Charlotte's research suggests it's not natural. The convergence was engineered. The implications hit me like a physical blow. You're saying someone created this whole situation? Deliberately established a multi-reality convergence point? Not someone, Claire corrects. Something. An entity that exists partially outside normal space-time. Charlotte called it the architect. I sit back, mind reeling. And Winters? How does she fit in? In every reality, Elizabeth Winters is drawn to Blackwood, becomes obsessed with understanding its nature. In some versions, she's the hero, trying to seal the breach. In others, like our original reality, she's exploiting it for knowledge or power. And in this reality, Claire smiles grimly. In this reality, she's dead. Killed 5 years ago in what appeared to be a random mugging but was actually an assassination by pattern forces. Our food arrives, temporarily pausing the conversation. I use the moment to process this new information, trying to fit it into our already complicated understanding of the pattern. So if Winters isn't the threat in this reality, I say once the server leaves, what is? The architect still influences this echo point, Claire explains. And with the June convergence approaching, its power is growing. We've recorded a 43% increase in reality fluctuations over the past week alone. Manifesting how? Doppelganger sightings, time slips, people reporting memories of lives they never lived. She picks at her salad. Sound familiar? Symptoms of the pattern reasserting. I acknowledge. So what's the plan? Javier and his team will test the anti-convergence device tomorrow. If it works at the echo point level, we scale it up for Blackwood. Claire's expression grows serious. But there's a catch. The device requires specific activation at the epicenter of the convergence. Let me guess. The basement at Blackwood where we encountered Winters. The very same. In every reality. I push my plate away, appetite gone. So after all this jumping and hiding, we still end up back at Blackwood. It's the only way to break the pattern permanently, Claire says softly. You knew that from the beginning. She's right, of course. Martin and Anna were clear about our eventual destination. Still, part of me had hoped for an alternative. When? I ask. June 17th, the peak of the convergence, when reality is most malleable and most vulnerable. She reaches across the table, taking my hand. We don't have to do this, Daniel. We could stay here, build a life as Daniel and Charlotte. The New Orleans team would find other volunteers. The temptation is powerful. Charlotte and Daniel Pearson have a good life here, respected careers, a beautiful home in the Garden District, no children but plans to start a family soon. We could simply allow ourselves to fully integrate with these identities, perhaps even find happiness. But the memories of Blackwood remain sharp. The doppelganger's hungry smile, Winter's cold determination, the bodies Claire glimpsed through her psychic connection. Bodies of other versions of ourselves, harvested for some unfathomable purpose. We can't hide forever, I say finally. The pattern would find us eventually. I know. Claire sighs. I just thought, maybe we deserved some peace first. Before I can respond, my pager buzzes. An emergency at the hospital. Charlotte's follows seconds later. That's not a coincidence, she says grimly, already standing. We rush back to Charity, an unspoken dread building between us. The emergency entrance is chaos. Ambulances arriving in quick succession, staff running to meet them. What happened? I ask the first nurse I encounter. Building collapse in the CBD, she responds breathlessly. Dozens injured, at least 5 critically. They're saying the structure just imploded for no reason. I exchange a knowing glance with Claire. Reality fluctuation. The next hours blur into a marathon of triage, emergency surgeries, and desperate measures to save lives shattered by impossible physics. I work on autopilot, Pearson's surgical skills flowing through my hands while Parker's mind tries to process the pattern implications. It's nearly midnight when I finally step out of my 3rd surgery, exhausted beyond measure. Claire finds me in the doctor's lounge, her own scrubs spattered with blood despite her research role. In an emergency this size, everyone with medical training gets pulled into service. 7 dead, she says without preamble. 22 injured, 9 critically. Pattern caused? She nods grimly. Javier confirmed it. Reality thinned around the building. Architectural elements from multiple versions tried to occupy the same space simultaneously. The structure couldn't maintain integrity. Jesus, I breathe, the scope of what we're facing hitting me anew. This is just an echo point. What happens at Blackwood when the full convergence hits? According to projections, catastrophic reality collapse, possibly extending for miles. Claire sinks into a chair beside me. If it happens at every Blackwood across multiple realities simultaneously. She doesn't need to finish the thought. The scale of potential destruction is unimaginable. We need to contact Martin and Anna, I decide. Let them know the situation's accelerating. Already did. They're mobilizing all available pairs. 20 of us will converge on Blackwood Prime, the original reality where this all started. Our reality? Claire shakes her head. Not quite. Similar but slightly different. The epicenter. A knock at the lounge door interrupts us. Javier Mendez. Tall, rail-thin, with perpetually disheveled hair, enters cautiously. Sorry to interrupt, he says, his slight accent betraying his Venezuelan origins. But the test results couldn't wait. He hands Claire a tablet. It worked. The anti-convergence field stabilized the echo point for 3.7 minutes before collapsing. Hope flickers in Claire's tired eyes. That's longer than the simulations predicted. Yes, but still not long enough for a full pattern disruption at Blackwood Prime, Javier says. We need to amplify the effect somehow. How? I ask. He hesitates, then says what I suspect he came here to say. We need a catalyst, something, or someone, with a strong connection to multiple realities. Claire's grip tightens on the tablet. You mean a sacrifice? Not necessarily death, Javier clarifies quickly. But yes, consciousness dissolution is a significant risk. The implications hang heavy in the air. Someone would need to serve as a focal point for the anti-convergence field, their consciousness potentially scattered across multiple realities in the process. Who? I finally ask. It would need to be someone with unusual pattern sensitivity, Javier explains. Someone who can already perceive multiple realities without technological assistance. Claire and I exchange glances, both coming to the same realization. Rachel Weaver, she says softly. The patient who helped us escape. If we can find her, I add, assuming she even exists in Blackwood Prime. According to the records Martin provided, she does, Javier confirms. In fact, she's a constant across almost all iterations, more consistent than even you two. The weight of what we're contemplating settles on my shoulders. So we return to Blackwood, somehow locate Rachel, convince her to potentially sacrifice her unified consciousness, and activate an experimental device at the exact moment of peak convergence. With Winters, and who knows what else trying to stop us. Essentially, yes, Javier says with the matter-of-factness of a true scientist. We'd need an extraction plan too, Claire points out. A way to get Rachel out immediately after activation, and ourselves as well. Martin's working on that part, Javier assures us. The quantum jump technology has been refined. We can now target specifics more precisely, reducing integration dissonance. Translation. If we survive, we can jump to another reality with less psychological trauma. Small comfort given the risks we're facing. When do we leave? I ask, the decision already made in my mind. 3 days, Javier replies. We need time to finalize the device and synchronize with the other teams. 3 days to prepare for a return to the place that still haunts my nightmares. 3 days to say goodbye to the lives we've briefly inhabited here in New Orleans. I'll make sure my patients are transferred to other physicians, I say, already mentally cataloging what needs to be done. And I'll secure my research, Claire adds. Charlotte would want it preserved, regardless of outcome. Javier nods, relief evident in his expression. I'll inform the others. He moves to leave, then pauses at the door. For what it's worth, many of us have been fighting this battle for decades. The fact that we now have a potential solution, however risky, it gives us hope. After he departs, Claire and I sit in silence, the enormity of our commitment settling between us. Are we doing the right thing? She finally asks. I don't know, I admit. But I do know we can't keep running. Can't keep jumping between realities while Winters, or this architect, continues harvesting other versions of ourselves. I've grown attached to Charlotte's life, Claire says quietly. Her memories, her work. It feels wrong to potentially throw it away. We're not throwing it away, I counter. If we succeed, all these realities continue separately, unaffected by the pattern. Charlotte and Daniel Pearson will exist here without convergence bleeding into their lives. And if we fail? The question hangs between us, unanswerable and terrifying. Then we all fail together, I finally say. Every version of us, across every reality. Claire rises, coming to stand before me. Without a word, she pulls me to my feet and into an embrace. We stand like that for a long moment, drawing strength from each other as we have since escaping Blackwood. 3 days, she murmurs against my chest. 3 days, I echo. Outside the hospital windows, New Orleans continues its eternal dance of life and death, beauty and decay, present and past intermingling on streets older than the nation itself. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls across the sky, heralding another cleansing storm. In 3 days, we'll face a different kind of storm. One that could either heal the fractures in reality or tear it apart completely. Either way, our long journey through the pattern will finally reach its conclusion. Back where it all began, Blackwood. The thought should terrify me, but instead, I feel a strange calm settling over my dual consciousness. Daniel Parker and Daniel Pearson united in purpose. Perhaps that's what integration truly means. Not losing yourself in another identity, but finding common ground between all possible versions of who you might have been. As the thunder draws closer, I make a silent promise to all those other iterations still trapped in the pattern's grip. We're coming. Hold on just a little longer. The convergence approaches, and this time, we'll be ready. There's something fundamentally disorienting about watching your own body disintegrate, not physically. The quantum jump doesn't tear apart flesh and bone, but on some deeper level, where reality itself determines what is and isn't solid. I feel myself coming apart, consciousness spreading thin across the multiverse before snapping back into focus like a rubber band stretched to breaking. When I gasp back to awareness, I'm kneeling on cold concrete, Claire's hand clutched tightly in mine. The basement of Blackwood surrounds us. Not the sterile surgical nightmare from our original escape, but a half-flooded, abandoned version thick with dust and disuse. Blackwood Prime, comes Martin's voice from the shadows. He steps forward, looking much as he did at the safe house, though his face bears new lines of strain. Right on target. Around us, other figures materialize. Quantum jumpers arriving from various echo points across the multiverse. Each pair appears momentarily incorporeal before solidifying, their features subtly shifting as they integrate with their local counterparts. Status check. Martin commands once the last pair stabilizes. Everyone sound off. 20 of us in total. 10 pairs of pattern breakers representing variations of the same souls across reality. Some look remarkably like Claire and me, while others bear only passing resemblance, their features shaped by different genetic lineages and life experiences. Yet something in their eyes remains consistent. The haunted knowledge of the pattern, the determination to end it. Javier? The device? Martin asks. A version of Javier steps forward, hauling a metal case. Unlike the physicist we knew in New Orleans, this iteration is heavily scarred, his left arm replaced by a sophisticated prosthetic. Intact, he confirms. Ready for final calibration once we locate the epicenter. Anna emerges from another corner of the basement, accompanied by a woman I recognize despite never having met her in person, Rachel Weaver. She appears much as she did in our reality. Slight build, dark hair, intense eyes that seem to see beyond normal perception, but carries herself with a composure our Rachel lacked. You found her, Claire breathes. She found us, Anna corrects. Rachel's pattern awareness exceeds even our projections. She's been preparing for this convergence her entire life. Rachel studies Claire and me with open curiosity. You're from iteration 647, she says with certainty. You escaped the surgical scenario, then quantum jumped from the Vermont safe house to New Orleans Echo Point. How could you possibly know that? I ask. She smiles enigmatically. I see all versions simultaneously. Always have. It's both gift and curse. And you understand what we're asking of you? Claire presses. The risks involved? Better than you do, Rachel replies without rancor. My consciousness will serve as the quantum anchor for the anti-convergence field. The fragmentation risk is approximately 87.3%, with complete dissolution at 62.9%. Her clinical assessment of her own potential destruction chills me. And you're still willing? This existence, perceiving infinite iterations simultaneously, is its own kind of torture, she says simply. If my sacrifice closes the breach, it's worth the cost. Martin checks his watch. A complex device showing multiple time readings. We have approximately 6 hours until peak convergence. We need to secure the device at the epicenter and prepare Rachel before Winters or the architect detects our presence. Too late for that comes a familiar voice from the basement stairs. We all turn to see Dr. Elizabeth Winters descending toward us, flanked by security personnel in tactical gear. Unlike the Winters from our reality, this version is older, more weathered, with a noticeable limp and a shock of white hair. "I've been expecting you," she continues, reaching the bottom step. "All of you. The pattern announced your arrival quite clearly." Martin steps forward, positioning himself between Winters and our group. "Elizabeth, it's been a long time." Martin Klein. Iteration 42, if I'm not mistaken. One of the first to break pattern. Winters' clinical gaze sweeps over our assembled group. "And you've brought friends. How ambitious." "We're here to close the breach," Martin states flatly. "End the convergence permanently." To my surprise, Winters nods. "I know. I've been waiting." Confusion ripples through our group. This wasn't the reception we expected. "You want us to succeed?" Claire asks cautiously. "The pattern has evolved beyond my control." Winters admits, her composure cracking slightly. "Beyond anyone's control. What began as research has become something else, something dangerous." "The architect," Rachel says, stepping forward. "It's growing stronger with each convergence." Winters' eyes widen slightly at the sight of Rachel. "Iteration Prime," she murmurs. "The original. I didn't think you still existed in this reality." "I exist in all realities," Rachel corrects, "though this body is indeed the template." I glance at Martin, trying to gauge whether this unexpected development is legitimate or a trap. His expression reveals nothing. "If you support our mission, why the armed escort?" Anna demands, gesturing to the security personnel. "Protection, not opposition," Winters explains. "The architect has its own defenders now. Corrupted iterations, doppelgangers, free of their original counterparts." Her expression darkens. "They'll try to stop you. They've already infiltrated most of Blackwood." As if summoned by her words, a distant alarm begins to sound. 3 long pulses followed by silence, then repeating. "Pattern breach alert," Winters explains grimly. "They know you're here." "How much time do we have?" Martin demands. "Minutes, perhaps. They'll converge on the epicenter." She turns to Javier. "You have the device? The anti-convergence generator?" He nods, clutching the case tighter. "Good." Winters gestures for us to follow her. "The epicenter isn't here. It's deeper, beneath even this level. A place built specifically to contain and study the original fracture point." She leads us to what appears to be a solid wall. Pressing her palm against it in a specific pattern reveals a hidden elevator, far more advanced than the rest of Blackwood's aging infrastructure. "Only 5 can descend," she explains. "Any more risks overloading the temporal stabilizers." Martin makes an immediate decision. Myself, Daniel, Claire, Rachel, and Javier with the device. He turns to Anna. "Hold this position with the others. If we fail, jump back to your respective echo points," she finishes. "Contain the convergence effects as best you can. The unsaid reality hangs between them. If our mission fails, containment will be temporary at best. Reality, as we know it, will eventually collapse across all iterations." Winter's security team distributes weapons to our group. Not conventional firearms, but devices that look like a cross between tasers and complex scientific instruments. "Pattern disruptors," Winters explains. "They won't kill doppelgangers, but they'll temporarily destabilize their quantum cohesion. Gives you a few seconds to escape." As our designated team prepares to enter the elevator, Claire pulls me aside. "I don't trust this," she whispers. "Winters helping us? It feels wrong." "I know," I agree. "But if she wanted to stop us, why reveal the true epicenter? Why arm us against these defenders? Maybe the threat is real, but her motives are still suspect." Claire's eyes find Winters, who is conferring with Martin across the room. Just be ready for anything. The alarm pulses again, more urgently now. Somewhere above us, a crash reverberates through the building's structure. They're inside, one of the security personnel announces. Multiple entryways breached simultaneously. Go, Anna urges, readying her disruptor. We'll hold them as long as possible. Our team crowds into the elevator. Myself, Claire, Martin, Javier with a device, and Rachel at the center. Winters remains outside, to my surprise. You're not coming? Martin asks. My presence would contaminate the process, she explains. The pattern knows me too well. She meets his eyes with unexpected sincerity. End this, Martin. Please. The elevator doors slide closed before he can respond, and we begin our descent into Blackwood's deepest secret. Can we trust her? I ask once we're moving. Absolutely not, Martin replies without hesitation. But her fear of the architect appears genuine. Sometimes even the worst people make the right choices when survival is at stake. The architect, Claire repeats. What exactly is it? The entity you mentioned in Vermont? Rachel answers, her voice distant, as if she's already half elsewhere. Not an entity in the way you conceptualize consciousness, more a living algorithm. A self-evolving pattern that gained awareness through the convergence itself. A pattern that became sentient, Javier clarifies. Feeding on the energy created by reality fragmentation. And now it's trying to prevent us from closing the breach, I conclude. Because that would essentially starve it. Worse, Rachel says, her eyes unfocused. It's trying to accelerate convergence. Complete collapse would release enough energy to allow it full manifestation across all realities simultaneously. Godhood, Martin translates grimly. The elevator slows, then stops with a soft chime. The doors open to reveal a circular chamber that defies architectural logic. Its proportions seem to shift subtly when not directly observed, and the walls shimmer with an iridescent quality, suggesting they're not entirely solid. At the center stands a pedestal of black stone, engraved with symbols I recognize from Martin's Vermont facility, quantum equations rendered in an ancient-looking script. The epicenter, Rachel whispers, approaching the pedestal as if drawn by an invisible force. Where it all began. What happened here? Claire asks, taking in the impossible space. June 17th, 1979, Martin recites. Dr. Elizabeth Winters and her research team attempted to create a quantum viewing device, technology, to observe parallel timelines. Instead, they fractured reality itself, creating a convergence point that has been growing stronger with each anniversary. And the original Daniel and Claire? I ask. Security guard and research assistant, Javier explains, beginning to unpack his device. They died in the initial breach, the first casualties of the pattern. Their deaths created a template that repeats across realities. Sacrifices, Rachel murmurs. The pattern requires them. Blood offered to feed the breach. Until someone breaks the cycle, Claire adds. Like we did. Like many have tried. Martin corrects. Few succeed. Javier works rapidly, assembling the anti-convergence device on the pedestal. It resembles a complex gyroscope surrounded by concentric rings of some silvery metal. At its center, a space waits. Rachel sighs. How much time until peak convergence? I ask. Martin consults his watch. 2 hours, 17 minutes. We're ahead of schedule, assuming. The chamber shudders violently, dust and small fragments raining from the ceiling. Above us, the sounds of conflict echo. Energy weapons discharging. Shouts, the occasional scream. Assuming we're not interrupted, Martin finishes grimly. Rachel approaches the device, studying it with clinical detachment. The calibration is off, she announces, adjusting something Javier has just connected. The quantum resonance needs to match my specific frequency. How would you know that? Javier asks, startled. I told you. I see all iterations simultaneously, including those where this plan succeeded. She continues, making minute adjustments to the device. And those where it failed. And which is more common? Claire asks quietly. Rachel pauses, meeting her eyes. Failure. By a significant statistical margin. Another impact shakes the chamber, this one closer. The door we entered through flickers momentarily, as if phasing between different versions of itself. Reality's already thinning, Martin observes. The convergence is accelerating. They're forcing it. Rachel corrects, working faster. The architect's defenders are deliberately destabilizing the structural integrity of Blackwood across multiple realities simultaneously. How long until the device is ready? I ask Javier. 10 minutes for final calibration, he replies. But Rachel needs to be properly prepared. Her consciousness aligned with the anti-convergence field. That's another hour at least. Which we may not have, Martin concludes, readying his disruptor. Daniel, Claire, guard the entrance. Javier and I will complete the device. Rachel. I know what to do, she says calmly, sitting cross-legged beside the pedestal and closing her eyes. Claire and I position ourselves near the flickering doorway, disruptors raised and ready. Through the distortion, we can make out the elevator landing beyond, currently empty but unlikely to remain so. Just like old times, Claire says with forced lightness. Trapped in Blackwood's basement, facing impossible odds. Except this time, we came willingly, I remind her. Did we? She asks, a hint of genuine uncertainty in her voice. Or is this just another variation of the pattern? What if everything? The resistance, the jumps, this mission is just the pattern adapting, finding new ways to ensure we end up right back here. The thought is disturbing enough that I have no immediate answer. Before I can formulate a response, the elevator doors outside our chamber slide open, and the first of our opponents emerge. My doppelganger leads them. Not the surgical nightmare from our original reality, but something worse. This version of myself appears perfect, unblemished, almost luminous with health and vitality. His smile when he spots me through the flickering doorway is genuine and warm. Daniel, he calls, his voice identical to mine. There's been a misunderstanding. We're not enemies. Behind him emerge other doppelgangers. Variations of Claire, Martin, even Javier. All perfect, all radiating an unnerving serenity. Don't engage, Martin calls from behind us. They'll try to confuse you, make you doubt what's real. My doppelganger takes a step closer. The architect isn't what they've told you. It's not destroying reality. It's healing it, unifying what was fractured. Harvesting us in the process, Claire retorts. We've seen the bodies. Her doppelganger steps forward, expression compassionate. Not harvesting, elevating. Those consciousness fragments were integrated, not destroyed. They live on as part of something greater. Despite knowing better, I feel myself responding to their sincerity. There's something compelling about their presence, an almost gravitational pull toward acceptance. The device is nearly ready, Javier announces from behind us. Rachel's alignment is progressing faster than expected. My doppelganger's expression hardens slightly. You're making a terrible mistake. The anti-convergence field won't separate realities. It will sever them completely. Billions of lives will be isolated in dying timeline fragments. He's lying, Martin insists. Reality existed as separate branches before the breach. Returning to that state is natural, not destructive. Is he lying? Claire whispers, her disruptor wavering slightly. How can we be sure? It's the fundamental question that's haunted us since escaping Blackwood. In a situation where reality itself is fluid, how can we trust our judgment? How can we know which path leads to salvation rather than destruction? The chamber shudders again, more violently this time. The doorway's flickering intensifies, the barrier between our position and the doppelgangers growing thinner. They're stalling, Rachel announces suddenly, her voice carrying despite her meditative posture. Every moment of doubt feeds the convergence. The pattern strengthens with uncertainty. She's right, I realize. Whether the doppelgangers are lying or not, their primary goal is delay. The convergence approaches its peak, and our window for action narrows with each passing minute. Claire, I say, decision made. We trust ourselves, not them. Never them. She nods, her grip on the disruptor steadying. When the doppelgangers take another step forward, we fire simultaneously. The weapons emit a pulsating wave of energy that distorts the air between us. When it strikes the doppelgangers, they don't fall or cry out. They simply ripple, their perfect forms, momentarily revealing something else beneath. Something ancient and hungry, wearing human shapes like ill-fitting masks. "Keep firing!" Martin shouts as more figures emerge from the elevator. "Hold the line!" Claire and I maintain a steady barrage, our disruptors gradually depleting but keeping the advancing entities at bay. They press against the threshold of our chamber but cannot seem to cross. Something about the epicenter itself rejects their presence. 57 minutes until peak convergence, Javier announces. The device is ready, but Rachel needs more time. "We don't have more time," Martin counters. "Look." Beyond the doppelgangers, the elevator landing is changing. Walls dissolving into swirling chaos as reality itself begins to unravel. The convergence is accelerating, the boundary between dimensions thinning to transparency. Through the distortion, I glimpse other versions of Blackwood's basement. Some similar to ours, others radically different. In one, surgical tables stretch into infinity, each bearing a body in the process of dissection. In another, the space appears to be a temple, with robed figures prostrating themselves before an altar of shifting light. "The architect is manifesting," Rachel announces, rising to her feet. Her eyes have changed. No longer human, but swirling pools of iridescent energy. "We must act now, ready or not." "You'll be destroyed," Javier warns. "Your consciousness isn't fully aligned with the field yet." "It's aligned enough," she replies with eerie calm. "The rest is sacrificed." She steps onto the pedestal, positioning herself at the center of the device. The concentric rings begin to rotate around her, slowly at first, then with increasing speed. My doppelganger slams against the threshold, his perfect face contorting with unexpected emotion, fear. "Stop!" he cries, voice losing its seductive quality. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly," Rachel responds, her voice now layered with countless others, all iterations of herself speaking in unison. The pattern ends here. The chamber begins to vibrate at a frequency that sets my teeth on edge. The air shimmers, reality rippling outward from the device in concentric waves. "Brace yourselves," Martin warns. "Once the anti-convergence field activates, we'll experience temporary consciousness fragmentation. Focus on each other. Your connections will anchor you through the separation." Claire's hand finds mine, gripping tight. Through the doorway, I see my doppelganger reach for his counterpart Claire in a mirror of our gesture. A bizarre symmetry of connection. 20 seconds to full activation, Javier announces, monitoring a display on the device's base. "Rachel, are you?" "I am ready," the chorus of Rachel's interrupts. "I have always been ready. In every iteration, in every timeline, this moment was inevitable." The concentric rings are now spinning so rapidly they appear solid, forming a sphere of energy around Rachel's transformed figure. Light pours from her eyes, her mouth, even her fingertips. Not human light, but something older, something that existed before our universe took its current form. "The architect was right about one thing," she announces as the energy builds to blinding intensity. "Reality was never meant to be fractured. But the healing comes not from convergence. The light explodes outward, temporarily blinding us all. But from liberation, the world shatters. My consciousness fragments, perception splintering into countless parallel awareness streams. I am simultaneously every version of myself across the multiverse. Doctor, patient, killer, savior, victim, hero. Lives unlived flash before me. Choices unmade, paths untaken. Through it all, one constant remains. Claire's hand in mine, her presence an anchor in the tempest of dissolving reality. I glimpse the doppelgangers disintegrating, their perfect forms peeling away to reveal the emptiness beneath. Not entities at all, but extensions of the pattern itself, given form by convergence energy. They scream in a language no human throat could produce as the anti-convergence field tears them apart. Beyond them, through the dissolving doorway, I see Anna and the others on the level above, surrounded by similar entities in the process of disintegration. Their faces show the same fragmented awareness I feel, experiencing all possible versions of themselves simultaneously. In the center of our chamber, Rachel is coming apart. Not physically, but essentially. Her consciousness, the original template from which all iterations spawned, unravels strand by strand, each thread seeking its proper reality as the convergence collapses. "Hold on," Martin's voice somehow reaches me across the cacophony of dissolving realities. The separation is beginning. The pain is indescribable, like being torn cell from cell while remaining conscious of each individual piece. I feel timelines pulling at me, infinite versions of Daniel seeking their proper place in the restored multiverse. Through it all, I cling to one certainty: Claire. Not just my Claire, but the essential Claire-ness that connects all her iterations. As long as I maintain that focus, I won't be lost completely in the separation. The chamber around us begins to fade, reality reasserting its proper boundaries. Blackwood itself seems to groan. A physical structure attempting to exist in only one dimension after decades of multiversal overlap. At the epicenter, the device implodes with a sound like the universe drawing a final breath. Rachel, what remains of her, smiles as her form scatters like stardust, each mote seeking its home reality. "Thank you," her voice echoes from everywhere and nowhere, "for letting me be whole at last." Then she's gone. The sacrificial catalyst that enabled our desperate plan. Reality snaps back into focus with nauseating suddenness. The chamber solidifies around us, no longer shifting when unobserved. The doorway stabilizes, showing only one version of the elevator landing beyond. Our version, from our specific reality. "Did it work?" Claire gasps, still clinging to my hand. "Are we?" "Separated," Martin confirms, checking his specialized watch. "The breach is closed. Realities properly divided." Javier moves to where the device stood, now just a circle of scorched stone. "Rachel?" "Gone," Martin says softly. Or rather, everywhere. Her consciousness fragmented completely, a piece returning to each reality where she existed. The implications of our success slowly settle around us. No more pattern, no more doppelgangers, no more architect feeding on convergence energy. Each reality now exists independently, healing from decades of unnatural overlap. "What about the others?" Claire asks. "Anna and the rest of the resistance?" "If they survived the separation, they're back in their proper realities," Martin explains. "As are we." "Our reality," I clarify, "the one we originally escaped from." Martin nods. "Blackwood Prime. Where the fracture began, and where it has now ended." Exhaustion crashes over me, the strain of temporal separation leaving me barely able to stand. Claire appears equally drained, leaning heavily against me for support. "And now?" she asks, the question encompassing everything. Our future, our safety, our place in this newly separated reality. "Now we live," Martin says simply, "without the pattern's influence, without the constant pull toward Blackwood. Free to make our own choices for the first time." It sounds too simple, almost anticlimactic after everything we've experienced. Yet the profound implications slowly sink in. No more running, no more jumping between realities, no more looking over our shoulders for doppelgangers or Winters or the architect's influence. "What about Winters?" I ask suddenly, remembering she remained on the level above. "If she survived, she's no longer our concern," Martin replies. "Without the convergence, She's just a psychiatrist with delusions of grandeur, not a multiversal researcher. We make our way to the elevator, each step requiring conscious effort as our bodies adjust to existing in only one reality after experiencing countless others during the separation. The upper basement level is empty when we arrive. No sign of Anna or the other resistance members, no security personnel, no Winters. Just the abandoned remnants of a facility no longer needed now that the convergence has ended. They return to their realities, Martin explains, seeing our confusion. Only those originally from this timeline remained. And Anna? I ask, knowing she and Martin have been partners in resistance for decades. His expression reveals the cost of our success. Her original reality isn't this one. She's home now, wherever that is. The separation had torn apart more than just the convergence. It had separated people who had built lives together across reality boundaries. The price of healing the multiverse was the severing of connections that should never have been possible in the first place. "I'm sorry," Claire says softly. Martin nods, accepting the sympathy but already moving forward with practical concerns. "We need to leave before authorities arrive. Blackwood will be investigated now that the convergence energy no longer masks its anomalies." "Where will we go?" I ask. "Anywhere," he says with a small smile. "That's the point. Without the pattern pulling us back to convergence points, we can go anywhere we choose." As we make our way through Blackwood's corridors toward the exit, I'm struck by how ordinary the facility now appears. Just an aging psychiatric hospital with peeling paint and outdated fixtures, no longer the nexus of a multiversal catastrophe. Outside, dawn breaks over the pine forest surrounding Blackwood. The air feels different, cleaner somehow, unsullied by reality distortion. Birds sing in the trees, and in the distance, sirens approach, the normal world asserting itself over what was once the epicenter of unreality. "This is where we part ways," Martin announces, handing Claire a set of car keys. "Blue sedan in the staff parking lot, new identities in the glove compartment, enough cash to start over." "You're not coming with us?" Claire asks. He shakes his head. "I have other pattern breakers to find. Those who originated in this reality, but may be confused or stranded by the sudden separation." "A new resistance?" I suggest. "A support network," he corrects. "For those of us who remember what others will quickly forget, the multiverse will heal, memories of convergence fading from most minds within days. But we who were at the epicenter will remember." "Is that a blessing or a curse?" Claire wonders. "Both," Martin answers, honestly. Like most profound truths. With a final handshake and embrace, he departs, walking purposefully into the forest rather than toward the approaching authorities. Within moments, he's lost among the trees, another enigma in a world suddenly restored to its proper boundaries. Claire and I find the promised sedan and drive away from Blackwood as the first police cars arrive at the main entrance. Neither of us speaks for many miles, processing all that's happened, all that we've lost and gained. "Where should we go?" Claire finally asks as we approach a highway junction. "East? West?" I consider the question, not just of direction, but of future. Without the pattern dictating our movements, pushing us toward convergence points, our choices are genuinely our own for the first time since escaping Blackwood. "I don't know," I admit. "But I do know I want to find out what normal life feels like. With you." She smiles, the first genuine smile I've seen since before the separation. Normal sounds wonderful. As we drive toward the rising sun, I think of all the other Daniels and Claires across the restored multiverse, each in their proper reality, each free from the pattern's influence. Some together, some apart, some never having met at all, but all existing as they should, without multiversal bleeding corrupting their paths. And Rachel. Countless fragments of her consciousness scattered across reality, each piece bringing awareness and healing to its proper timeline. Not destroyed as we feared, but transcended in a way none of us anticipated. "Do you think we'll ever understand what really happened?" Claire asks, watching the landscape change as we put miles between ourselves and Blackwood. The architect, The pattern? All of it? Probably not entirely, I reply honestly. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some mysteries are meant to remain partially unsolved. She nods, accepting this philosophical conclusion with typical grace. I wonder what happened to all our other selves. The ones in New Orleans, the ones in other realities we glimpsed during separation. They're living their lives, I say with sudden certainty. Free from interference, making their own choices, just like us. The highway stretches before us, an open invitation to whatever future we choose to create. For the first time since entering Blackwood's oppressive walls, I feel genuinely hopeful. Not just for our immediate survival, but for the possibility of happiness in this newly separated world. The pattern is broken. The rules no longer apply. Now we write our own story.